Okay, that's started. Okie dokie. I think we're good to at least start the ball rolling. I'm sure more people will start hopping in and hopping out and all sorts of stuff, as that's typically how the meetings go. Um, First off, morning everybody. Hope everybody's doing good. For those of you in the EUs and stuff, happy afternoon/evening. Thank you guys for making some time today to pop on out. Obviously, it's a smaller group today for a plethora of reasons, but it will be recorded for later playback if needed. Today's meeting is going to be a little bit different, as I said, because we do have some things we want to chit chat with you guys from a staff perspective on. But we also have we want to hear from you guys as the community on things that you guys either like, either don't like, things you think we're doing well, things you think we could do better on. Basically, giving the community an opportunity to just brainstorm with us on things we can do to make OSRP better. We're always trying to make OSRP better and more attractive to new players, to retain current playership, to encourage current whitelisted members to log back in, things like that. So we'd like to hear from you guys. So to start off with, if anybody here has something they want to chat about, but they're not comfortable bringing it up in voice, you can use the community meeting questions channel. That I just reactivated both of the community meetings channels, so you guys are good there. You can also do what somebody else did, which is you can submit a ticket and just say, hey, here's something I wanted to bring up. I just don't feel comfortable bringing it up in person or through voice, and then we can access the ticket. Just at me in the ticket when you open it, and we can go through it that way. If you don't want to speak up verbally, it's okay. We understand that sometimes that can be a little nerve-wracking for people, but we also want to use this opportunity to be like, hey, it's okay to sit and chat with us about things. Like, that's kind of what this is. So I will go ahead and just start with a few things, and then if anybody has something they want to say, or like, hey, can have a point, just say something in the community meeting chat. Just tag me and say, hey, I have something I'd like to say, and that way we'll just that instead of the hand raising system that the meeting hall has. That way we don't have to worry about dragging people in and out of perms and things like that. This would just be ways your people just unmute themselves and they're good to go. One of the first things I want to mention is that from a development standpoint, the server has been, like, our team has been working our tails off lately. So we just recently moved to a new project management system that we basically started up this last week. And in that last week, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different projects all in the works right now, just literally since moving to this new system. That's not counting any side projects people might be working on or things. So development-wise, we are moving and grooving. There's all sorts of stuff that's being worked on top of bug fixes and optimization fixes that we're always currently trying to catch and fix and things like that. So from a development standpoint, OSRP is not only is maintaining speed, but is actually ramping up. With Kung joining the dev team recently, that's been huge. Kung actually used to dev with Galaxy, so they're already hitting the ground running and just going crazy, which is awesome. So big shout out to Kung for joining the team. Matter, who joined the CS team earlier this week, has also been just super passionate and already brought a bunch of things to our perspective that we hadn't thought about before. So Matter's already, like I said, brought some things to us that we're working on figuring out if we can implement and fit inside the culture of OSRP, which is really, really cool. So we have some cool stuff that is being discussed that is being worked on as well. So just so that you guys are aware, I know that sometimes staff seems like we're kind of quiet on things, or we take forever to get back to things. It's not because we're lazy. It's not because we're doing other things. It's because we're doing other things, but we're doing other OSRP things. For example, I haven't been on the server in a while because I've been every night I get home from work and I'm doing OSRP things pretty much, except for last night. Just so that you guys have transparency there, we are working our tails off to make OSRP even better. So that being said, does anybody right off rip have anything that they want to bring up or talk about? Like I said, basically for those people who are just kind of popping in, this is an opportunity to verbally talk with us about some things you either dislike, wanted to see change, wanted to see added, things that you think we should remove, anything like that. But I will preface, before anybody starts talking, that we are opening up the floor to verbal communication from everybody for this sort of stuff, so we can have a dialogue going. but I am going to require that everybody remember that we're adults, we need to act like adults, that we can have civil, constructive communication. But if this becomes toxic, if this becomes like not like I'm giving feedback because I don't like something, but like negative and toxic and degrading and things like that, or if start talking shit about myself and the staff team, another community member, or talking directly to anybody, like keep it respectful, keep it civil, keep it constructive, and it's okay. No one's going to get in trouble or anything like that for bringing up something that you don't like about the server. And even if we don't agree with you, that's fine. Your opinion is valid. We may not implement your change because we disagree, but we will at least want to hear it because maybe you're going to have a perspective that we don't have. So that's like the only requirement, is that everybody keeps it civil and everybody keeps it, that we're all adults. That's the only requirement. Everything else is you can voice whatever you feel you need to be voiced. If nobody has anything right off rip, I do have one that's locked and loaded that somebody opened a ticket this morning before the meeting started. Then I'm happy to go over first. Unless somebody's like just itching to bring something up. If you're itching to bring something up, just tag me in the community meeting chat and say that you want to talk, and I'll shut up and you can have your couple minutes to say what you want to say. But while I'm finding this ticket, I'll give you guys a second to tag me or anything. I'm gonna go actually do this. And like I said, for those of you who are joining, if you're not comfortable speaking up in voice, but you do have something you want to talk about, you guys can use the community meeting questions channel and just write it out there, and we can talk about it verbally here. We understand that some people aren't super comfortable having voice discussions with things; they're better over text. So if you don't care about being seen or like your name being attached to it, put it in community meeting chat. If you are a little more nervous about bringing something up, but still want to, open a support ticket and then write it out in there and then tag me in the ticket, and that way only staff can see it, and then I can go ahead and grab it that way. I'm gonna move over here and do this. Okay, so since nobody's like chomping at the bit, I'm gonna go ahead and start with a ticket that was opened this morning. I don't see in here. One second. Let me confirm something real quick if the player is okay with their name being attached to it. Yeah, there you go. Tyrope's also volunteered that if you're really not comfortable with your name being attached to anything at all, you can send a DM to Ty, and then Ty can either translate it to us through here or speak up in voice or whatever. That is an option if you guys want. Just because we didn't prep a form for this because it was a little bit different of a meeting, this is kind of us Band-Aid fixing it in the After Effect. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So the player that opened a message this morning, they are cool with their name being attached to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and read off real quick. This is from Ren. She is not here in the meeting today, but she did want to bring some feedback up. So I'm just going to read these in her own words from top to bottom. I'm not going to paraphrase or anything. She says she has 3 sections. The first one is criminal. She says, I was excited when 2.0 launched because of the criminal changes. I believe it was said that we'd be encouraged to branch out and find people to fill a role on your crew. But for the majority, I've only been met with people who participate within their own circles. I'd like to bring this up because it's the reason I'm not currently engaging in criminal roleplay. We are a small server, and it can be hard to establish new players and characters that are not welcomed into the fold. It's easier than ever to get involved with our criminal map, but we could be better at inviting others to tag along. The second section she has is for medical. It says, we are a small server. I want to take a moment to thank you guys all for the medical calls we've been getting for our new EMS probies. Every bump and bruise has been helpful, and I'm excited to get more active EMS players out on their own. And then last section is for Weasel News. She says she'd like to know from the community, what would you like to see more of from the news team? Do you enjoy the shows? Want more in the newspaper? More on-scene interactions? Things like that. So from a staff perspective, I'll just go ahead and go through these real quick. And then if anybody has anything that they want to chime in on, again, this is kind of an open forum, so that's okay. So in regards to her criminal comment, actually, this is something we were going to bring up as a staff team at the end, so we'll just kind of fold it in here. This is actually something we as a staff team has seen as well. Like, we've tried very, very hard to kind of sort of reevaluate our position and our culture as a community in regards to criminal access. So like mechanics and resources and locations, and try to figure out what are the gates and roadblocks that are keeping players from accessing certain things, and then try to remove those gates as best as possible. That's why when we hit 2.0, we started telling you guys, hey, excuse me, allergies. Hey, we're going to start removing some of these admin gates. Like USBs, obviously, are no longer supplied through one admin character, right? Drugs are now produced on server by groups and individuals. Things like that. We're trying to remove spawned requirements, like spawned item requirements, as much as possible, so that there is there's avenues of roleplay to achieve what you want to achieve without having to wait for a specific character to be around and have them spawn it and all sorts of we understand that that's a roadblock. Obviously, there are a few tiny little areas that are going to remain in staff hands for balancing purposes, but it's very, very small in consideration to where we started last year. That being said, Ren does bring up a point that we've actually noticed, which is players are sort of gravitating to siloing inside their own circles. Of like, yeah, well, like, you know, I admit that when I do this on when I'm on Gizmo, I kind of have done this myself, and I didn't realize it until recently, which is I'm Gizmo, I do Gizmo things, and I don't really think to go pick up people to go do things with Gizmo. I don't do it intentionally. I just don't think about it. I think, oh, I'm just on Gizmo. I'm going to do Gizmo things, and I'm going to go do crimes with Gizmo. And if I have Rodri around, I'll do crimes with Rodri. But if I don't have Rodri around, I just think, oh, I'm just going to do it myself. And that's a bad habit to get into as a player. Because there's other people on the server who might want to be hanging out with people or might need to learn how to do things. And if you can grab those people and teach them how to do things or introduce them how to do things, that is huge because you're spreading out roleplay for starters, but you're also including others in that roleplay. Go ahead, Melon. I'll stop and let you go. That's a really cute emote, by the way. Anyways, while he's fixing his mic. So yeah, I will say that from a staff angle, we've seen that happen, and we don't know if there's a staff solution to that. If there is, we're happy to explore it and figure out how we can assist from a staff angle. And by the way, Melon, as soon as you fix your mic, just start talking. You can just interrupt me. It's fine. I'm just gonna fill the gap until you fix your mic.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Fix it. So something that I wanted to address is, you know, that the whole like click kind of deal,
Mm-hmm.
the groupings, the everything. I personally think that, you know, trying to get some more hangout locations, like open hangout locations that are, you know, active, will help in that too, because it turns into, oh, Bean Machine is actually your local meetup coffee shop, so you sit in your corner and you talk, or vice versa. But that also has to fall on everyone else going to those locations and being open to talking to others.
Yeah, we've been calling them hubs within the staff team of like
Yes.
finding hubs that we can that can be facilitated on server. And we've tried mechanically to start kind of moving in that direction. Like for example, Lombardi's is right there next to a 24/7, next to Hayes, next to an ammunition, next to a gas station, and then obviously there's the bowling alley interior across the street. Which obviously is just an interior, but we're trying to move in that direction of creating these hubs. But at the end of the day, and this isn't me trouncing over you, by the way, this is me agreeing with you. At the end of the day, it requires players to go to those locations and turn those into hubs. Because if we mechanically make a little spot somewhere where it has everything, if players aren't hanging out there constantly or going there constantly, then it's just going to sit and collect dust.
Yeah, there's a bowling alley.
Yeah.
I explored the interior.
Yeah, it's cool. It's right across the street from Lombardi's. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that it's just an interior right now.
Yeah. Is there any? I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to like talk over you or anything, Melon. I was actually 100% agreeing with you. Is there any more that you wanted to comment on that?
Not necessarily. I know that in character between some of the groups that Jack has interacted with, there's been talks of setting up, you know, maybe like a weekly or bi-weekly kind of meet spot for other people to go to, and you know, getting things started like that will help, because just car meets or anything like that could be a big one, because car culture and other things has been quite the deal on the server when, you know, mechanic shops turn into hubs. But yeah, that's basically where it falls.
Oh no, I like the idea of meats and everything as well. So to kind of comment further on this, since we're already kind of on this topic, in regards to, and Jesse, I do see your hand. I have not forgotten. I just want to, unless is this related to melons? Because if so, we can keep it in the same topic and we can keep going. If it's a change of topic, it kind of is. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and Ty and let's go. Actually, let's see. Ty first, and then Jesse, since it's related to this topic, and then I have a comment from a staff perspective that I guess we'll just dive into now. But we'll let Jesse go. I'm sorry, Ty go first because he raised his hand first.
Ty, you raise your hand first. You go.
Yeah, mine's actually really. I'm going to say really simple and short, but it's probably not as simple as it sounds. But you know the most powerful hub that's already been on the server since 1.0? Twitter.
Yep.
The first character Sydney met was because he got picked up by yelling on Twitter that the secondhand store in Harmony doesn't actually sell cars.
Yeah.
So somebody's like, I need a ride? And ta-da, he now knows people.
Yeah, Twitter's a very powerful tool. And actually, I have a comment on Twitter, but I will wait for Jesse to speak before I bring that up.
Yeah, mine has nothing to do with Twitter. Mine is just thought because I think it's in the rules. Don't remember how to run it on, but like we had that whole thing against like sitting in the same place and not doing anything, which is where like hubs and establishing them is kind of difficult, I think, because we try to establish that culture earlier on where you don't just sit in one spot and that's not where all the players collect and you got to move around and do stuff.
Sure, and I see where you're coming from on that respect.
Yeah. Everyone ends up moving around and then there is no hub.
Yeah, to clarify that rule, that is mainly referring to just like aimlessly standing in one spot, not doing anything for long periods of time. And when I say long periods of time, I'm talking like hours. Because it's what some of the older RPers will call the parking lot RP, where everybody just stands in some random location and just stands in a circle or circle jerk RP, yeah, and just basically talks through. They're not really role playing; they're just kind of talking to each other through their characters. That's more what that rule's referring to, because that was something that would happen a lot. Where not on our server, it didn't happen a whole heck of a lot on our server, as comparatively to other servers. But literally, you'd have 10 or 12 people literally standing in a circle in a parking lot somewhere or in front of a mechanic shop or in a weird spot that doesn't make sense to be in, and you're talking. You're literally like, oh yeah, I went and had lunch at Subway the other day, but you're talking in your character, or like I dreamed of pizza last night. Like that's sort of the stuff that rule is specifically referring to. Hubs, and Smooth just nailed it actually. Hubs are made to meet people and talk for a short period of time so they can discuss what they want to go do. It's okay to say, for example, go hang out at Lombardi's and chit-chat with the Lombardi's while you're eating food. And then if other people come in, you start chit-chatting with them and sitting down and having food with them. Because you're still role-playing, you're just doing so in one location. I will say that from a staff angle, yes, we were very, hesitant on quote-unquote hubs. And I don't want to say hubs specifically, but we were hesitant about hangout spots simply because we were worried about circle jerk RP. We were worried about parking lot RP. I don't think that that's fair from our angle to you guys, from past behavior, because that cuts down a potential interaction point. So, like, that's one of the things when we had that big meeting a couple of months ago, where we were like, look, staff recognizes we made some mistakes in the past. We're going to kind of ease back on things. We're going to, not be so hesitant, not so like quick to go, oh, well, this is a problem, we're gonna talk about it. Like we want you guys to be able to interact and role play, and if that means you guys need to linger at these locations longer, like Lombardi's or down at the Vespucci Market, which has all these shops that we're hoping to get filled over, however long it takes. Like those are great spots that can become hubs. Now that's completely different than I'm gonna hang out in the lobby of Pillbox Medical all day hoping to run into somebody. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference between hanging out at a restaurant, which makes sense to hang out at, and someone who's perfectly healthy and is hanging out in the lobby or the driveway of Pillbox Medical. So it's being mindful of where you're hanging out and why you're there, but also making sure that if you are hanging out somewhere, you're doing so for the purpose of role play. You're doing so for the purpose of meeting people, interacting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And to add on to that, the prevention of just the linger around and stand in a circle, that's fixed a lot of the times by the business owner or the person running the shop at the time, where you're like, oh, we're reaching a certain point of time, or it's been like a few hours or so, I'm going to close down the shop and move on to something else. in cases of other, like I've had ideas and I'm still working on ideas for my own thing, but think of a spot and think of like what makes sense for business hours, because daylight in game is going to be way different than daylight or anything IRL. So, you know, location plus in-game time for hangout locations also makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
I
I'm
agree.
spitballing a lot.
No,
here.
no, you're right. And I was listening, but I was also multitasking. No, I completely agree. And I think that something to clarify here as well is it is perfectly okay to hang out at a spot that could be a potential hub and interact with other players, like Tequila Law opens, so everybody goes to the bar and is interacting. The important thing I want to clarify is that when you do that, that when they close, you're not going to the next spot that's opened up and hanging out there. So like instead of everybody goes to Tequila Law, you hang out there for an hour, you're chit-chatting and you're dancing and you're doing emotes and drinking drinks or whatever. They close and then Lombardi's opens up, so then everybody just moves over to Lombardi's. That's just moving from one hub to the other. The point of a hub is to meet up and then go out and do things. Go out and maybe you're linking up with people and you're teaching them how to go do crime. Maybe you're linking up with people and you're going out to do hunting. Maybe you're linking up with people and you're going to set up a race somewhere. Like you're meeting up at a hub, and then when you're going out from the hub, you're going to spread more role play. You're going out to do more things. You're going out to start more activities, not just go from one hub to the other. And it's just this big, like migratory move of all, the herd of players moving from one point to the other, all at one big bundle. Because yeah, that can be fun for a little bit. But if there's cops on the server and all of the criminals and all of the civs and everybody are just moving from the VU to Tequila Law to Bahama Mamas to whatever, and they're just migrating around the server, the cops obviously have no interaction. EMS has no interaction. Pillbox has no interaction. Criminals that might be out not at those events have no interaction. It's just everybody moving in a herd. That has negative side effects as well. So it's being mindful of how long you're sitting at a hub and what is the purpose of the hub. And the purpose of the hub should be to link up with potential other people to interact with, and then going out from that point and branching off and doing other things. So, anyways, that's kind of the view on hubs. I will state, so since we've kind of done that, I want to bring something up real quick in relation to this. This was something that one of our staff members did recently. He wanted to kind of conduct a little science experiment and see, like, okay, what perspective am I not seeing in regards to new player interactions? Or like, how does a new player feel when they jump on the server for the first time? They've never RP'd with people here before. They've never been on the server before. It's like first day they make a character and they just start doing the norm, right? Like I get on, I get my things, and I start hitting up Twitter or whatever, right? And I'm going to paraphrase what he said essentially because he sent me a whole DM on it. But basically, he created a character on a Thursday, hopped on, and he set out. Actually, let me see if I can find the message real quick because it was like he literally gave me like data. Scroll up here in my DMs. Hold on. Bear with me. Okay, so this is essentially what he said. He basically hopped on the server on a Thursday, brand new character, had never interacted with anybody before, and didn't tell anybody he was making the character either. He was literally just a fresh start. It says there was 15 people on the server on a Thursday. 3 were doing like chicken farming and stuff like that. LEOs were doing their thing. But he sent out 4 tweets looking for a ride, and nobody responded to him. Friday, 12 people on the server, people doing different things, LEOs on the server. There was an academy going on. 6 tweets with no response. Saturday, got on kind of late. Did 2 tweets instead of as many as before, with no response. Sunday was he posted 6 tweets with about 12 people on the server, and obviously different people doing different things. And in all of those 4 days, the only response he got from the tweets was on Sunday, and the only interactions he had up to Sunday, before Sunday, was with cops because he did a crime and the cops showed up. So basically, it was kind of like surprising. It's like, okay, a new player gets on the server, has never interacted with anybody, doesn't have any connections, OOC, doesn't know anybody, and just is trying to do the thing of getting involved with people on the server, and is doing, like as Tyrup said, using Twitter. And is using Twitter extensively, using it like not just once and done, like actually lots of tweets and everything, trying to get people to interact with them, and is not getting any responses whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily like I'm not saying that it's like, oh, you need to respond to every tweet. Everyone needs to respond to every tweet ever. Like, no, that doesn't make sense. But it's just, I can see there's a disconnect there when somebody is trying to test the waters, creates a new character, and is doing the norm of using Twitter, and no one's even responding to them. So I think the reason I'm bringing this up is not to like be mad or shame anybody or anything like that at all. It's just kind of like there's a perspective that we're realizing that, like, as a staff team, we want to give you guys the best server experience we can. Like, seriously, we want to do that. We are constantly reevaluating our own resources. We're constantly looking at ourselves very objectively, going, what can we do to make OSRP better? But the other side of that coin is it requires not only the staff that are players, but players that are players to use those resources and those mechanics, but then interact with each other and welcome new players onto the server in some sort of fashion, and include people in the role play and spread the role play around, and not just be doing role play siloed in your own circle, but also bringing other people into that role play. It's very important that as a community we treat it as a community and we include people in it, whether they're brand new or they've been on the server for a while, is spreading things around and interact with other people. So the hubs can be a great spot for that, because instead of meeting somebody through Twitter, which you can easily discount Twitter, you can easily see a tweet and ignore it, right? Like, you don't, like, your brain will see a tweet and go, I don't need to respond to that, right? And then it's just done. Whereas if you interact with somebody in front of you, it requires communication. It requires interaction. Like, you physically have to interact with the other person, and that can lead to, conflict. It can lead to going into a crime. It can lead to whatever. And so you have that interaction right then and there. So we obviously want to try and help create hubs. And if that's something staff can do to create hubs, we are completely open to hearing that. And maybe it's something we haven't thought of. But there is certain player agency that's required when it comes to creating hubs, that players are willing to help kind of build those those locations, help build those interactions with the players, and respond to each other and things like that.
If I can add just a very slight bit on this, I'm
Sure.
kind of like gravitating and magnetizing to one of the key points on all those tweets that went out.
Sure.
How, hey, I'm new, can I get a ride? Or, hey, I don't have my car, can I get a ride? I've noticed that some of the civ mechanics and civ jobs have fallen out of use.
Mm-hmm.
Two of those, the transit jobs, you got bus, you got taxi.
Yep.
I guess a question right now is, has taxi been updated?
It is in the process of being overhauled right now as we speak, actually.
Okay.
That's actually one of the first projects that Kung took on when he joined the dev team, is he was helping us fix something that we were a little bit stumped on before. And so taxi is actually being fixed literally right now, so that there is a better way to have that civilian transport without it being somebody, like, they're literally being a solution to part of that problem. Yeah, like as Will said, literally as we're speaking, I'm looking at the dev chat on another monitor. They're talking about fixing it. Like, they're in the testing sections of it right now. So it's actually being worked on as we speak. Like, it's been worked on for a couple days now, but like literally I'm watching dev chat move on my other monitor. So yeah, no, it's
I'm sorry for taking your question, Rose. I know we talked about it like DMs earlier too.
Yeah, no, so basically, to give you guys transparency on why taxi was broken and why it wasn't really being used, was because we, like last year, and because the code hasn't really been, that specific job hasn't really been messed with since last year, but taxi had a bug where if you got somebody in your car, and I'm telling you guys this as like transparency because it's going to be fixed and you won't be able to do this anymore, but there was a bug with taxi where if somebody got an AI in their car, let's say they were at Pillbox Medical, they pick up a fare, and the fare wants to go to Jamestown. You could literally take the fare all the way up to Paleto, go around the island several times, and basically rack up how much money you're going to be getting from the fare just by like getting the number to go up higher and higher, and then take them to Jamestown. And instead of getting like $20, you'd get like $1,000. And we had players that figured this out, and we spoke to them about it, and they stopped doing it. And then we had others that abused it and got spoken to. So that was part of why taxi was in kind of the state that it was. That is since being resolved by our dev team, so that is no longer a possibility. So that it is but it will still be a viable way for civilians to get role play, get interaction, and get paid while doing it. So yeah, I gotta scroll back up here. Was there any other? Let's see. So Wild Rose, I take it Melon stole your question by the looks of it. Busing job, to my knowledge, I don't believe any of the devs are working on that, but something tells me if we're fixing the taxi job, the bus job will be in shortly behind it.
I remember very early on, especially like first week, I had brought Vazdil in, which was well before I could even apply to PD. I was running the buses, and the one thing that got me is it's the same exact route in a circle every time.
It's a bus route.
So-
Yeah. And honestly, like I said, it's not on our current list of like, let's go fix this, but Kung's already responded to Wild Rose's comment with a smiley face. So I'm fairly certain he's like, I got an idea. So looks like he's already all over that. So as soon as we probably get taxi sorted, I'm sure bus will be shortly behind it. But that's the thing, is we're always willing to fix whatever errors or issues might be present with the job to make it more fun. Because the biggest thing we want is at the end of the day, yes, this is role play. Yes, they're supposed to fall within certain scope of what role play is, but this is still supposed to be fun, right? This is still supposed to be enjoyable. So if we can make things fun and make them viable, we will, provided that it balances out with the rest of the server. So for example, like we're not going to make taxi pay so well that criminals are going to go, I can go do taxi and have no risk and make all this money, or I could go sell drugs on the street corner, have all this risk and make no money. Why would I do that? Like we're not going to do that. But we will try to make sure civilian jobs have some love so they feel viable, but always have that question. Like everyone who goes to a civilian job will have that question in the back of their mind of, should I get into a life of crime if I want to make more money? Like that should always be the question in the back of a civilian's mind. But I will say this, having done Taxi RP in the past on other servers, Taxi RP is one of the best ways, both as a passenger and a driver, for a role play. Like seriously, the kind of interactions you can get at a Taxi RP are something you're probably not going to get anywhere else, because you're forced to be, I agree, Birdman, it should not be about the money. Taxi RP is one of those things where you are forced to be in a confined space with another role player for a certain period of time. You don't know each other. You have no reason to interact beyond the fact that they're providing a service for you. And just sitting silently is not, like, come on, interact with each other. The driver should interact with the passenger and vice versa. Obviously, yes, the driver should be well compensated for for doing the service, as well as any RP avenue should. But Taxi RP is great role play. So if anyone's like, and even if your character is already established, like I used to see, for those of you guys who are familiar with Chief, who used to play on FAM and NoPixel and a couple other servers, his character Badaka was like stupid wealthy rich, and all these cars and all these businesses. He would go get a taxi and run taxi all over town because it gave him information. His character would gain info by interacting with people through taxi because he's the taxi driver, and you would just chit chat with him, and it was such a great avenue of RP. So don't feel like because your character's made it and has all this money and everything that you can't shake it up and do something like that. You absolutely can, and sometimes you'd be surprised at what you're going to come across.
I want to add a fun comment to this, but PDM has plenty of cars with taxi liveries and other things too, so you don't have to just run around with typical taxi.
Yeah, you can get creative. You can absolutely get creative. And
Aeon knows this because I took the Eudora from PDM to Benny's, and oh my god, that thing is awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. So let me make sure. I'm gonna make sure my devs can correct me here. To my knowledge, people can run taxi like Uber. Basically, they can run it in their own vehicle. Correct? I want to make sure my devs can check me on this.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Cool. So yeah, so there you go. So you can do Uber if you want. If you want to, get something silly and go do Ubers in a silly vehicle, like by all means, go for it. So anyways, that was that's some things I'd like for the community to think about on the whole of like, if players are on the server and they're new and they're trying to get interaction, whether it's through Twitter or they're looking for a ride or you bump into them somewhere, like, it's encouraged. It's okay to interact with people and to if they're new, like draw them in, like oh, where are you from, what are you doing here, like what sort of things do you get into. Like it's okay to ask some of those questions. It's encouraged to ask some of those questions. Some people want that kind of interaction of like of being asked the question, what do you do or what do you get into. Something that was brought up to me as well is it can be kind of nerve-wracking for someone who's new to interact with someone that's perceived to be kind of a player in town, right? Like, for example, somebody runs into, say, let me give an example. Like, let's say somebody runs into, I'll just use Gizmo, I guess. Where somebody runs into Gizmo, he's repping colors of the Vagos. He probably is packing. He looks, he sounds looks and sounds kind of aggressive. So maybe I shouldn't like ask these questions. It's okay as that player to ask the question of like, yo, what are you getting into? What do you get? Like to flip the tables. Like, yeah, they may want to ask you a question about getting into something, but they might be a little intimidated based on how you play your character, or who your character is, or the fact that they're just new. Turn the table. What do you do in the city? I know that's kind of the cliche RP question, but hey, it works. It starts the conversation. Like it's a little bit like it's the RP question, but it helps start that conversation because you're gonna get the question of like, oh, I'm trying to become a doctor. Okay, person's a civ, probably not going to want to go do crime. Or, oh, I'm just trying to make ends meet and I'm willing to do anything. Okay, now you have an understanding this person's might be willing to do some crime. I know it's not like the favorite, like, what do you do in the city? Maybe word it a little bit differently. Maybe like, so what do you get into? What sort of stuff do you do for fun? What sort of stuff do you do to make money? Like, you can word it a little bit differently so that it's not the traditional question, but you can still use it as a way to lure people in or draw people into potential interactions. And also kind of feel them out of like, okay, maybe this person's willing to go do some crime with me. Maybe this person wants to go do some civilian jobs with me or whatever. And tagging and getting people to tag along with you, even if they're new, to do like a simple job. Like maybe they just want to ride along with you while you do post-op. Maybe they just want to, just hitch a ride up to, with you up to go hunting and learn how to do hunting or whatever. Just however you want to phrase the question or the interaction, it can really help someone feel welcomed into a community, even if it's an existing player, but they're on a new character. It can help that character get their footing very quickly when someone's willing to interact with them and beyond just a simple hi, how are you, cool, have a nice day, like actually interacting and dragging it out into whether it's crime or civilian operations or a chit chat or a drive or whatever, just something beyond just the initial hi, how are you, and then leave. So let me, because let's see, the ticket from Ren had the criminal side of it, medical side. So we are always trying to encourage medical roleplay from everybody. I know that not everybody enjoys medical roleplay. That's okay. Some people don't enjoy doing it on their characters. Some people aren't comfortable with it. That's okay. But it's extremely important across the board that whatever you're doing in regards to medical, whether it's you are downed and you need to get brought back up, whether it's you lost some of your health and you need to get brought back up to full health, whatever it is, medical professionals on the server, so EMS and Pillbox, that's their entire role play, is what you give them from an injured status. Even if you're not injured, even if you just like, oh, I feel sick and I want to go get whatever, like whatever you're feeling in regards to medical roleplay, that is all of their roleplay. That's everything that they get for the most part is interactions in the hospital and interactions in the back of an ambulance. So we are looking into some things from a staff angle to widen that scope. And I'm not going to say much more beyond that at this point, but if you're ever in a situation where you have to interact with medical roleplay, please give them the respect and the time of day of interacting with them, giving them /me's, giving them things to work with, giving them a reason to go back and forth with you. Make it interesting. Maybe something small, like you got hit by a car and you just got sideswiped by a local and you got a little bit of I'm not making it sound like a chore. Maybe you can go like, hey, I'm gonna have some fun with them and I'm gonna play around and I'm gonna give them something they weren't expecting. Like, oh, I now have a compound fracture that they have to figure out how to deal with and then get them to the hospital or whatever. They love that because it's like a puzzle for them. So give anything you can give them, they are happy with. That being said, it's important that no matter what mechanics are on the server or what tools we give you guys or whatever, that anytime that you take yourself to the hospital, for example, whether it's and again, I'm not saying this is against the rules. This is just something I want people to be mindful of. Is if you take yourself to the hospital, if your buddy takes you to the hospital, you've completely circumvented EMS and all of their roleplay. Just like give you guys clarity on that. Like if you're with a buddy and your buddy gets hit by a local and he's down and you just scoop him up, put him in your car, like we obviously have a rule against this, but if you just do that, you are completely circumventing and going all the way around EMS and completely cutting them out of roleplay. If you fall off a ledge and take a little bit of damage, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm not down, so I can get myself to the hospital. You've completely cut EMS out of their roleplay because you've gone to the hospital. And yes, technically EMS hangs out at the hospital, but EMS are the transport. They help stabilize you and get you feeling better, and then get you to the hospital.
Mila, that's enough.
Hello?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was like, wait, what? And then they take you to the hospital. But once you're at the hospital, EMS is hands off. I know. Apparently that was enough. Apparently I'm done. I've been told that's enough. But once you get to the hospital, no, you're fine, Big Toe. I just thought it was funny. Once you're at the hospital, EMS is hands off. It's all Pillbox Medical at that point. Yeah, exactly. Did you get scuffy damaged? Make for a fun interaction with EMS. And here's the thing, right? I want to clarify this. Just because you're interacting with EMS doesn't mean you need to go like 100 miles. Like you don't need to go all the way to the end of the road. Like you don't need to go, oh, EMS is on scene. I am now going to have to be resting for the next 6 days and all this. Like you can literally just have them get you up as long as you're role playing with them and you're giving them things to work off of and you're respecting the injuries you're giving yourself, basically. You're still giving them role play. Like they don't have to transport you necessarily. They're still interacting with you on scene. Like you don't have to basically go, oh, EMS is here. I'm now now I'm in the hospital for a week, or now I'm going to take a loss or whatever. Like literally them just giving you medical treatment is role play for them. And again, on the other side of that coin is going to Pillbox. Just because you go to Pillbox and get treatment from one of the nurses or treatment from one of the doctors does not mean that you have to be in the hospital for 6 or 7 days, or you have to, rest for several hours. Like, going in and having them take a blood sample, or having them check your temperature, or having them, just a checkup. Like you can do all of these things and give them that RP and then walk out the doors and go back to role playing. Like you're still giving them role play. You don't have to feel like you're trapped there for an exorbitant amount of time because of it. I know that sometimes people forget those sort of things when it comes to medical role play. So I'm just kind of reminding people like, hey, these are the kind of things you can do. Now, I do want to clarify the witty comments either. I love giving Pillbox witty comments. One thing I want to clarify is at the end of the day, every role player is responsible for giving themselves their own injuries within reason. Obviously, if you're shot by another player, you have a gunshot. Sorry, that's just, it's physics. But if you are shot and you give yourself the /me of bullet perforated left lung, okay, you now need to respect that that's a pretty severe injury. Like you now have a collapsed lung and there's going to be blood in your lung and all sorts of stuff. You gave yourself where the bullet hits you. So you need to respect the injuries you are giving your character. If you're shot in the throat, you need to give, all this sort of stuff. You need to respect the injuries that you're giving yourself because the medical people are not going to tell you what happened to you. You are going to tell them what happened to you. And they're going to respond with that. So if you're saying, hey, I have a collapsed lung, and medical going, shit, we've got to do all this stuff because he's got a collapsed lung and blah, 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 blah. And they're doing all this sort of stuff. And then at the end of it, they're going, okay, he needs to rest here for a couple of days because we need to make sure his lung doesn't recollapse or that he doesn't suffocate on his own blood or whatever. That's them responding to what you initially opted into. So if you don't want to be holed up in the hospital for a long period of time, if you don't want to be resting for several days on end, then make sure you are giving yourself injuries that they can roleplay with that are respectful of that sort of interaction, and that you're not basically saying, oh, I had all this damage, and then you're walking out the door in 20 minutes, because then everybody involved kind of goes, that's weird. Why is the person walking out when they just told us their leg was behind their head and their heart was outside their body kind of thing? Like, be mindful of what you're giving yourself as far as injuries so that when you walk out the doors, people go, cool, that was good RP, instead of what just happened. Jesse, I see your hand up.
I don't know if I'm brought in chat because I'm playing a game, but there's a very, very useful thing that you can do where you open chat and you type /help. And that gives you a window with a bunch of useful stuff, including medical injuries and how bad they are.
Yep. You mean we have a help guide on server? What? Since when do we have a help guide on server? Sorry. The staff team gives me shit on that all the time because somebody once asked if we had a help guide and it's turned into a meme. So, but yes, help guide. It's amazing. And then, yeah, for those of you guys who don't remember, thank you, Birdman. We have this amazing thing that Galaxy made for us called an injury log. It's wonderful. You do /injury instead of /me, and you type out what it is, and it literally puts it into a log that's attached to your character that medical people can actually look at with one of their mechanics and see what injuries you gave yourself. And then when you're all done, you do /clear injuries, and it's all reset. Unless you're smooth and you forget that you have a bunch of injuries and it says you have a perforated lung from a week and a half ago. Mew, hand. Yes, hello.
I just wanted to say, we're here to just react to what you have. which Neon already said. And if there's a situation where it's like the injury is further than you thought it was going to go, like the collapsed lung, and you didn't realize the implications of a collapsed lung. I've done this before, and it's still completely up to you. Like if, say, you're a 95 and you're actually going to be going to jail after this, but you don't want to rest in pillbox before you go to jail, you can do a /me to the pillbox person to say, hey, Dr. Locale or Nurse Nancy say it's okay if they finish recovering up at the infirmary in Bolingbrook. So then you're still technically resting because you're going to, Bolingbrook, and you're going to be in the infirmary there, but you can move to the next location if that's what you'd like to do. So while we'll make recommendations based off of what you are giving us, you are able to either sign out against medical advice AMA, or you are able to use your /me's and use Nurse Nancy or Dr. Locale, or just saying that you're, if it's an EMS person, your vitals are stabilizing or whatever, to clue us in as to that the injury might not be as serious as we initially thought it was.
Yeah, it's
and another.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
There's also another thing that I get it, a lot of people aren't comfortable with this, but I would love to see it more if you guys are comfortable with it. Just because one of us says that we did something, maybe we did it wrong, and you do a /me that says it's not working, or that we missed, or that we did whatever, and we have to then correct it.
Wild Rose knows I've done that to her so many times when she's on her nurse and I'm on Gizmo of she'll do it are the sutures holding or something like that, and I'll go, nope, they failed, and she's like, fuck, and I can hear her react of she's got to try to figure out. It's basically creating a puzzle for them to figure out. It's great. I love doing that.
Yeah, because on another server, I did a lung transplant on Neon, and there were at certain points built into that lung transplant, because we did have it written out, where we asked if stuff was holding, and obviously it's, most medical RP isn't going to be to that extent, but if we're doing something and you're I feel like throwing a wrench in for the medical professional, you don't even need to know what the answer is going to be or anything like that. You can just say that didn't work, and we'll just have to figure it out. It's on us to figure it out. It's not on you to know what the solution would be. You can just throw in yeah, that didn't work for me, dog. Figure it out.
Yep.
And we would love that.
Yeah, exactly. Medical RP, I know a lot of people just don't enjoy it or are kind of intimidated by it, but it literally is just a back and forth between you and the other player, and they know what RP they're doing. It's kind of the same way of yeah, I don't know what law RP stuff is, so I call the lawyer character to come help me out because I don't know it. They have taken it on themselves to know that area of RP, and you're interacting with them. Same thing goes for medical. You don't necessarily need to know all the ins and outs of medical things. They've taken it on themselves to have a better working knowledge of it for their character. So by you interacting with them, just play off of what they're playing with. And they're never, like I said, they're never going to do or give you something that you didn't opt into with what you're telling them, essentially. So, yeah.
And if you want to do a big injury, I know I say it all the time in text. I will say it again here. If you want to do a big injury and you are not sure, either do a /LOOC, I will help you, or DM me. I will help you through what the symptoms are, what it is. And honestly, I'm going to be real with you guys. I Google half of it anyway myself and just say what are the symptoms of a collapsed lung? And then I just go based off of that. Yeah. So, but I would say almost all of us, if not all of us, are more than willing to help you guys with any medical RP. If you guys want to expand your medical RP, you have a question about medical RP, you just need reassurance about it. But we're just happy if you give us an injury. It doesn't have to be a fancy injury. It doesn't have to be a big injury. We're there for the interaction. So don't feel super pressured that you have to give us this heroic save every time, because we're just happy that we're talking to you.
Cool. All right. So I don't want to harp on medical RP too much, but I did want to bring those concerns and those things up just so people are aware. But I know Ren is very appreciative of all the injuries and stuff you guys have been giving. So those of you who've been doing it, keep doing it, please. I know they appreciate it. We would love to see more medical people on our server, whether that's pillbox staff or EMS staff. But in order for those people to make those characters or to be around, there needs to be RP for them to interact with. So please keep that up. And then the last point Ren brought up was Weasel News stuff. I love Weasel News. I think they're awesome. The only reason I haven't made a character is I'm out of character slots. But Ren has said she is very happy to keep doing it, but she's asking from you guys, what sort of stuff do you think that we should be doing? They should be doing more of. You know, you enjoy the video recorded shows, the newspaper that they do, like on-scene interactions and interviews, that sort of stuff. Like, what would you guys like? I mean, you don't have to say it in voice. You guys can put it here in text. You guys can, whatever. Like, honestly, I know Will does the Weasel News stuff too. Like, we've tried to give Weasel News all these really cool tools because I think Weasel News RP is awesome. So the more people that want to get involved with the News RP, the better. But what would you guys like to see them doing so they have things to go do? I'm sure they would love to. Have more ideas for them things to work with. So yeah, I mean, if people just want to put them there in chat for Will and Mew, because I know Will and Mew have characters for that. Looks like Kung's interested in it. I know that Ren and her husband, they have characters for that. I think it's cool. I think it's one of the most fun avenues of roleplay out there is news related RP. I think it's great. So yeah, anything like that would be awesome. Okay, so while I'm like kind of reviewing things here, does anyone else have? So we've kind of gone over those big topics. Does anyone here have anything they want to bring up? It can be a change of subject. It's okay if you want to raise your hand and change subjects at this point. I think we've kind of covered our bases on those other things.
Just a bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna preface this a bit with saying I don't think it's a problem on the server, especially not in the recent months, because there's been a bunch of talk about it, and it hasn't, at least for me, because I haven't logged on late at night that much. But I think about a week ago, myself and Melon spent a couple nights on cops chasing after somebody, and more often than not, they get away. There was, I think someone mentioned a bug with a bike that made it way faster than it's supposed to be, or they'd be like doing tactics to switch vehicles. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I don't care if you get away, but please give at least 5 seconds of back and forth or calling me a dipshit when I catch up on the scene, because most of that has been just quiet pursuits and then losing them, and then quiet pursuits and losing them, like with whoever was not ever saying anything to me. And that's boring as shit. I love chases, I love chasing, but like, if there is no words at all thrown around, then it's I can go play Need for Speed or some shit.
Yeah, LEO RP is not just ping chasing and is not just vehicle chases. LEO RP is law enforcement roleplay. It's actually interacting with the other side, the other players. It doesn't necessarily mean that obviously criminals need to give themselves up. It doesn't mean criminals need to serve themselves up on a silver platter. It doesn't mean any of that. But what I've said before, like how I play Gizmo, for example, is when I'm robbing a store, like I'm hitting a register, right? And when the cops are rolling into the scene, like if I can get to my car before the cops get out of their car, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna run, right? But if they get to the building and they're out of their car, my rule is I now need to interact with them. I need to do something. I need to try and talk my way out of the building because they've gotten there first. I took too long, and they now have earned the role play of interacting. Of they have to get me out of the building, kind of thing. That doesn't necessarily mean I need to give myself up. Sometimes it's, I remember one time I was on Smirk and I was RPing with Melon, and we held an orange hostage, and they negotiated for the safety of the orange for us to get out of the building, and then we got in a car and we drove off, and it was great because
I remember that. That was lovely.
Yeah, they got a fun little interaction of us holding an orange hostage with a lockpick, and then we got in our car and so we got to have a good chance of getting away in a chase. They got the RP of interacting with us at the store. Like, everybody got the chance to roleplay, and we still got to run. It wasn't like we had to just give ourselves up. So you can get creative with what kind of interactions you're giving cops, provided you're giving them something to interact with beyond just ping chasing and just running around, because they want roleplay too. Now, I do want to clarify for the cop side of things that we encourage both as like literally as LEO command, but also as like a community, criminals to be smart. So criminals are trying to be smart to try and, you know, not get caught, because if they get caught, they lose money, they you know, have to sit in jail, whatever. So criminals are going to be smart. They're not going to be dumb. They're not going to be, you know, handing themselves over on silver platters. And in return, cops need to be smart as well. We give a lot of tools for cops to use for investigation tools. We have blood, we have fingerprints, we have DNA, we have, camera footage at like shops. We have, warrants. We have license plates. We've got so many tools and potentially more tools coming for LEOs to use to catch criminals. So it's important that cops use those tools to the best of their abilities. The same kind of rule applies for car chases in that, you may not be we try very hard to make sure our vehicles feel balanced, both for criminals and for cops. We try to keep a real good thumb on the button, essentially, of or hand on the lever, however you want to refer to it, in regards to how vehicles feel on the server, both as criminals and as cops, to make sure that the experience of a car chase is fun. It's not that it's weighted in one direction or the other, because like criminals have certain things that are weighted in their directions and cops have certain things that are weighted in their directions. So that when you put them all together, it creates a relatively fair and fun experience for a car chase. So the same thing kind of applies in that if a criminal is using a car to the best of its ability, it might suck to chase it as a cop, but it's just the criminal has taken the time and effort to learn how to drive the car, to learn how they can get away from things, to become a better driver, whatever, because they're trying to be smart so they don't get caught. In the same way that if cops want to catch criminals, they need to put in the time and effort to get better at driving a car, or to learn the city streets, learn some of the hidey holes or the shortcuts or whatever, so that they can increase their ability to catch a criminal. Obviously, if something is like majorly broken, like if, like, for example, we found out recently some motorcycles were going way too fast and we're not coded to do that, that's different. Obviously, bring those to our attention so we can fix them. But if it's just, a situation where you're chasing somebody and they get away, okay, they got away. Like, it sucks. I've been there. But it doesn't necessarily mean you can't catch them again. And we also try to provide like safety net tools so that cops have, okay, a criminal's gotten away from us in this one car 5 times. We can now change our tactics a little bit to increase our odds of getting them the next time. As an example, things like that. So,
I'd also like to add a
Sure.
little bit to this.
Mm-hmm.
In my own personal way, when I'm, rolling around doing criminal bullshit as Jack. So I get into a pursuit. I'm getting chased by, at the very maximum at the starting point, 1 car. I personally don't go all out until my playlist has played 1 full song, or vice versa. But it's more of I time myself. I pace it out.
Sure.
So, okay, this pursuit's gone on for, say 5 minutes. Step up my game a little bit more. Start taking these little jukey turns,
Sure.
and yada yada. It's just a way to keep it fun, keep it entertaining, and also keep it more than 10 seconds.
Yeah, no, I got you. And I think that's great. I think everybody has their own little systems, right? Like for me, if I'm being chased by 1 cop car, and let me rephrase that. If I'm on the server and I know there's only like 1 cop car around because of either I've discovered it or it's just low pop day or whatever, then I'm not gonna I'm gonna drive normal. I'm gonna have a normal chase. But if I know that there's a bunch of cops around, I'm like, okay, and I got 1 cop car behind me. Typically what I'm going to do, if I'm not like really determined to get away for one reason or another, I'm going to give them a pretty fun chase where I'm not trying too hard. As soon as I start to get 2 or 3 cops behind me, I'm like, all right, they now have a lot of backup. I'm going to really, I'm going to dig in my heels and I'm really going to try to get away now.
I
just noticed some shit getting away.
I see car number 2 get behind me. Okay, training wheels are off. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's when you kind of like, all right, we're going to kick it into high gear and we're really going to try to get away. But everybody has their own systems for how that is. And no, I don't think that I don't want criminals here to take away that, oh, I need to go easy on the cops.
Yeah, no.
Like I'm saying,
No.
Everybody has their own system for what's fun to them and what they feel is the most fun. The important thing is understanding that the other side of that interaction, there's a player. And the other side of the interaction, that player is trying to do something counter to what you're trying to do. So a cop is trying to catch the criminal. The criminal is trying to get away from the cop. It doesn't mean that the criminal is thinking through every possibility and every possible way they can get away from the cop. If I do this, their cop car can't do that, so I'm going to get away. Or if I do this, the crim car is going to behave this way and I'm going to catch them. Like 9 times out of 10, players are literally just thinking linear of, I need to catch criminal or I need to get away from cop. That's basically it. They're not thinking through all the ins and outs of what they could or couldn't be doing to try and catch or get away. it's just the way that it is. Remembering that it is a video game, but also remembering that at some point in that interaction, somebody's going to lose. The criminals are going to get away, or the cops are going to catch you, and one of you two is going to lose. It's okay to take the loss. It's okay to get caught. It's not the end of the world. Don't throw a fit. Like, okay, you got caught. Move on to the next interaction, whether that's in the jail cells, with medical, the next chase, or whatever. It's important to remember that interaction is going to result in somebody losing, and that just needs to be maintained. But something else to kind of remember there is that when you are interacting with, if cops are interacting with criminals or criminals are interacting with cops, whether you're taking a loss, whether you're getting arrested, whatever, however you want to articulate that, it's important for both parties to remember that there's a player on the other side of the interaction. When you're a crim interacting with a cop, how would you feel if you as the criminal were speaking to you as the cop the same way? Would you appreciate it? Would it be fun? Would it be interactive? Flip side of that, if you're the cop and you're speaking to a criminal, you're behaving towards a criminal a certain way, how would you appreciate what they're doing? Would you enjoy what they're doing? Would you be okay with what they're doing? Both sides of that equation need to be mindful of that at all times. It's very important that both sides go, would I be okay with this if I was on the other side of this coin? Because if the answer is no, then it's important that everybody goes, okay, maybe I need to maybe I need to change how I'm doing things. Maybe I need to be more mindful of how I'd feel if I was on the other side of that coin. Because I know a lot of times we lose track of how the other party might be feeling or thinking or perceiving what we're doing, and they may not appreciate it. And that can burn players out. That can frustrate players. That can result in a lot of things. So it's important whether you're chasing a criminal in a car chase, you're interacting with a criminal at a 24/7, or you're arresting somebody, or the flip side of all of those, the inverse of all of those, you have the cops showing up at the store you're robbing, or you are trying to get away in a car chase, or you're getting arrested. It doesn't matter what. If you are on one side of that coin, it's important for both people to remember that those players are players too, and they may not appreciate the way you're talking to them or interacting with them, maybe going too far, too hard, too hardcore criminal, too RoboCop, whatever. Like, just there's a level of respect and consideration that needs to be considered at all times on all of those interactions from both sides. It's a two-way street. Sorry, I kind of tangented a little bit there. I apologize.
No, it's fair. I also wanted to say the reason I brought that up the reason I brought it up in the first place is because like stores I had no troubles with, but like the calls me and Mel were responding to were mostly carjackings. So it's understandable you gotta hit the spot, you gotta get out of there because it's a carjacking. Like, we know you just did that there, we know you have a gun, we're gonna bulge that. But I want to say, like, if you got away like one time without saying anything, and then we catch up to you second time, just like across the car, like slow down a little bit, throw like, oh, you guys are slow as shit, and then keep gunning, just like something.
Well, yes, be careful though, because because I agree to a point, but I also want to make sure that, like, taunting other players because they are like bad at something, like, it's really hard because there's a line there.
Bad example, but like, just smallest interaction is all I'm asking.
Sure, something, and I appreciate, and I can appreciate that as well. I think that's a fair thing. I think it's going to depend on the player. I think it's going to depend on the situation, because here's the thing, and this is something cops a lot of time forget, is that just because it looks like the criminal is really trying to get away hard for something like seemingly small, like, for example, doing some rather risky maneuvers, whether on foot or in a vehicle, because they stole a car. It's like, why are they doing this? They stole a car. What you don't know is that criminal might be carrying things on their person that they cannot get caught with, whether it's a hot gun or it's a bunch of illegal contraband. Like, there's like I said, there's always two sides to the coin, in that the cops only have the perception that's right in front of them, and the criminals only have the perception that's right in front of them. The criminals may not know the cops have been shot at 17 times that day, and they're just sick and tired of getting shot, right? They don't know that. The cops are going to forget that the criminals, they may be just driving a stolen car, and they like, what, dude, they're not interacting with me, they're just running. Well, yeah, because they're carrying 150 rolls of marked bills, and they have a hot gun on them. Like, of course they're going to try really hard to get away. Or they got 60 bags of meth on them. Of course they're going to try really hard to get away. Like, there's always that hidden perspective that both sides will never fully have unless they talk to the players out of character, which isn't always going to happen. So it's really, 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 really important that both sides on every single situation try to remember that there's going to be hidden information that they will not have access to, and don't and the whole adage of don't judge a book by its cover is very important. So whether it's in this case where they're robbing a car or whatever and they're taking off from you and they didn't give you an interaction, there could be a reason for that. They could be trying really, really hard to get away because there's something bigger at play that you're unaware of. It doesn't necessarily mean they shouldn't still interact with you. I think they still absolutely should, but it's important to remember that there's always that hidden information there that they know that you may not have as a player.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
We
So
love the behind the scenes. We love.
well, on that same note, it's also important that cops follow through on their investigations, because sometimes we've had many instances on our server where people will actually go out of their way to provide information or provide details or leave evidence or whatever, and cops start it and they get the report written and they collect the evidence and then it just goes poof. It just fizzles out. There's sometimes other reasons for that, but sometimes it's just cops get distracted and they just want to get on the server and they want to drive around and respond to calls, and that's okay. But it's important that if you are going to start something, speaking to the cops, if you are going to start an investigation, try to either follow it through or find somebody who can help you follow it through, because that can also be a thing where it's like, we love the behind the scenes stuff and we love the investigations, but that requires actually following through and finishing them. But yeah, Birdman mentioned like there's a reason why one of his characters didn't like most cops is because the way he was spoken to. That's side effect of how a cop will speak to a crim or how a crim will speak to a cop. Continued behavior of a certain way will result in a some kind of consequence, essentially, and understanding that is going to be in place there, that's going to happen, is important. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought. But yeah. Does anyone else have anything they want to raise their hands on, or did I miss anybody that raised their hand that I did not see? Let's see. Freshman just said that also brings up another thing try to evade accordingly. Like if you're just running from a stolen car or something like that, try not to turn it into a shootout if you don't really have anything on you that would. Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% fresh. Like yeah, if your character has just lockpicked a car, stolen the car, and the cops happen to just be right around the corner and they get the call and they come around the corner and they're right there, all you're on the hook for is a stolen car. You don't have any drugs on you. You don't have a hot gun. You don't have any warrants out. Nothing. You're looking at a very small time and fine. Trying to drive like you're Gone in 60 Seconds and you're taking like super risky maneuvers and you're driving really erratically, and then at the end of the chase it turns into a shootout because you stole a car, it sets a precedent that's the norm, and it gets really weird to deal with as a cop because we judge our reactions based on your guys' maneuvers. Like, so for example, if you're driving really erratically and everything, we're going to ramp it up. If you start shooting, we're going to start shooting, things like that. So if you're basically getting super ultra violent over a stolen car every single time you're running, then cops get in the habit of that's the norm, instead of going, okay, this person's is running in kind of a normal fashion. We can understand that this is probably not going to turn violent, or this is whatever. We can pace ourselves essentially on how you guys are running. Versus if every single time a person gets in a car and runs, we know it's going to turn into a shootout. Guess what? The cops are going to behave the same way, and it gets really weird for us because, like, you're running in a stolen car. The most you're looking at is a very small time and fine. And if you roleplay with us, probably going to give you a pretty good cut, because we don't want to just stick you in jail for the full time and fine. Because then, and this is something that, I should say, cops shouldn't want to stick people in jail for the full time and fine, because if they do, they're losing out on potential interactions for 10, 20, 30 minutes while that person's in jail. Whereas if they stick them in jail for the minimal time and fine, and then they get sent back out, they're back out on the street again, and they're able to create more roleplay. So if it's a big like ripple effect that everything has its an action has equal to opposite reaction kind of thing, and that if somebody does something like as a cop arrests somebody for max times, then they're in for a long period of time. They're not getting interaction. So when they are getting out, they want to actually have an interaction and not just have them run. But the person doesn't want to get caught again because they're going to get max time and fine. So they run, and they really don't want to get caught. So they turn into a shootout, and then they do get caught and they get pissed because they got caught in a shootout, and then they're hitting max time and fine again. And just it's this big, huge, muddy mess. So like if you're going to run, and you're going to run from something that's like small, run from something small. And if you get caught, you get caught. No biggie. If you're running from something big, then run from something big and really stick in. Like, you need to get away because you have a hot gun. You just shot somebody. You robbed a bank. You something big should warrant a big getaway, that kind of thing. Like the whole argument. I mean, I know Dub's kidding, but the whole argument, I ain't going back. Like you're going back for 10 minutes, dude. Like it's okay to go in for 10 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever for a stolen car, and then you're back out again. It's like a couple $100 in fines. You get sent up, you're back. It's no big deal.
I would like to bounce off of that with an interaction from last night when I was definitely at my last leg and tired as hell. So I appreciate, Redwood stepping in and helping me with this. But Rory literally got the evading charge knocked off per supervisor approval, and we were almost going to give her community service because it would have literally been a 12-month sentence into Bolingbrook. And I appreciate every little bit around it. And yes, I was 100% willing to do that. I just couldn't think because it was really late and I hadn't slept in a while.
Yeah. Galaxy, you said you wanted to piggyback off that. Go for that. Go for it.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind that when it comes to LEORP, we are what's the best way to put it? Our hands are tied in a lot of respects because of the law and the rights that people have. So even if you commit a crime, don't treat every situation as if, the cops are going to show up and they're just going to arrest me because they know I committed a crime. Like, for the most part, we show up and we have to like investigate and all of that. And even if you answer some basic questions or things like that, it's very unlikely that a cop's going to be able to arrest you right then and there for you committing a single crime or something that they didn't get to witness. So also keep that in mind in terms of your role play, is that just because the cops show up and start talking to you doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be in trouble. And so you don't always have to just run from stuff. You can hang out in an area, even if you hung out in an area where you committed a crime and were just hanging out there. That's not enough for a cop to be able to say, oh, you committed this crime, I'm going to arrest you. And I'm not saying you guys need to be like super well versed in the law and all that stuff, but just keep those sort of things in mind, that cops can show up and you could be on the scene of a crime and it doesn't necessarily implicate you. So don't think you have to immediately bail and run before the cops get there, or if the cops show up that you just have to take off and that sort of thing. You can stick around and interact with cops. I've had plenty of situations where I'll hit like a mailbox or something, and then I'll just be hanging around the area smoking a cigarette, and the cops will roll up, and then we'll just have a chat like, hey, did you see anything, and things like that. So keep that sort of thing in mind as well.
Absolutely, 100%. And to the flip side of that, to remind the cops, just because a player is in the area of a crime, unless you have evidence to tie them to it or you saw them do it, you do not have enough to arrest them just because the player is in the area. The player, it could have been... You have to remember, in the same way that we say that NPCs are characters too, basically, that they are part of the server as well, the same rules apply to them. If if a player's in the same area and there's an NPC there too, how do you know the NPC didn't do it? Well, because it's mechanics. Okay, that's power gaming. That's knowing that out of character, the mechanics dictate that the player must have done it. Okay, there's no way your character would know that. And so remembering to kind of restrict yourself in that regard is important, because sometimes you're going to get some really cool RP from somebody trying to talk their way out of a crime. Sometimes you're going to get and sometimes the criminal may fuck up and admit to the crime or talk themselves into it, or maybe they don't know you have more information, like the call indicated it was a male and you're the only male in the area, or something like that. Like there's tools that are available for the cops, but at the same time, the criminals can try to talk their way out of it too, or try to interact their way out of it as well, or whatever. It doesn't mean you instantly have to run. It doesn't mean that you instantly need to arrest the person. Like, role play. Just use the role play to move through things. If you don't arrest the guy, who cares? Like, it doesn't benefit the cops to get. We're not hitting quotas. You don't get paid for every arrest you make. The arrest is just part of the role play. Yes, we want to catch the bad guys. We want to catch criminals. That's what we do. But I know, personally speaking, as a cop, I would rather have a lot of. I would rather get like one really cool investigative. This is me personally, so I'm not saying this is the golden rule. I'm saying this is just me. But I'd rather get one cool like investigative arrest over 5 ping chasers that I couldn't 100% prove, but could kind of think that they did or whatever. Like, that's just me. Again, I'm not saying that's the golden rule, but that's just me. I really want people to be mindful of the role play aspect of these interactions beyond just the mechanics of catching somebody, the mechanics of just getting away.
Speaking of the investigative stuff, please give us our murder spree. Give us our serial killer.
Wait,
I'm ready
what?
For that. I'm ready for the big ones.
Oh,
I
they're
don't
on
think
there's several on the server.
I know there
Yeah.
are, but
I'm not saying
a
who.
lot of them are. I haven't seen anything from them.
That's because
recently.
I will say this. They're the ones that do exist right now are super slow burn. So
I know.
Just that good, Melon.
yeah, they're taking their sweet ass time. I'll give you that. But
Freaking.
but yeah.
I mean, there's one that I've classed as Vasdal that I'm claiming as serial now, but it's whatever.
There you go. Yeah. So just as cops, like, reminder on that of like, you don't have to, you don't need to initially make an arrest. Like if someone's hitting something small, right, and you think out of character, you think they did it because they only play in the area, but you can't prove it, let them go. See if they do it again, because then you can start to build a case. Like, well, you were at the scene of this last one, now you're at the scene of this one. That seems fishy, and you can use that as evidence. You can use that as bullets, as ammunition, essentially, to move forward with an arrest. Just because you didn't catch them with the first one doesn't mean you can't catch them with the second or the third. In the same way that, yeah, like Galaxy said, our hands are tied as cops because, yeah, we may think that you did it. We may be so convinced that you did it that we'd be willing to bet our life savings on it. But if we can't prove it, we can't arrest you. And also as a reminder to cops, just if you cannot prove that someone did something, don't ever arrest somebody, especially on a hut charge, if you don't feel that they're actually guilty of, you don't feel you can actually prove it. Don't be like, oh, I'll arrest them and send them to court and the courts can figure it out. Don't do that. Our DOJ system is there, but it's we're low staffed right now in the sense of DA's office. We're low staffed in judges and prosecutors and all that sort of stuff. That doing that can really screw over a player right now. Yeah, back when we had a really thriving DOJ, that would get sorted out very quickly. And people would be like, you see, Copper, you fucked up, whatever. But right now, that's really detrimental to criminals. So if you can't prove they did it and you can't articulate that they did it, you don't have the evidence that they did it, do not arrest them for a high-level charge. Little things, you can arrest them and, you can try to role play through it or whatever. And I would still recommend not doing it if you can't prove it, because you're going to get in trouble in character. But especially if it's a big boy charge, if it's a hut, it's a capital, or whatever, please, for the love of God, don't do that, because it creates more problems than you guys are aware of. We're trying to obviously adjust that. We're trying to bolster our DOJ, but that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And right now, it can create some really bad roadblocks.
Speaking of hut charges and whatnot, currently it still stands that it's the 3-year, quote unquote, 3-day.
Yes, that is
maximum until DOJ and other things are able to get things in line.
Yes, right now. So oh, go ahead.
Sorry, real quick, Neon. I also updated the MDT for all officers so that when you click a HUD charge now, it's a 0 fine, and it is just that 3-year months calculated, so you guys don't have to remember or calculate it yourselves.
Thank you. Yeah.
It'll just automatically calculate it for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so to clarify, basically, for those of you who are not aware, that essentially a hut charge used to be that you were literally held until trial. You could not leave prison until a trial happened. Unfortunately, due to the systems that we currently have and the lack of bodies we have in the DOJ and things like that, it is different. Whereas if you get a hut charge, you are held for 3 days with no fine. And if your court case doesn't happen in those 3 days, you're released basically on bail. You're released from prison, but your court case is still going to happen, and you're still going to have to show up for your court case. And then at that point, the courts are going to decide that you're actually guilty. You need to go back into prison with a fine and a time, or you're not guilty and you're released and you don't owe anything. But there's a lot of character overlap right now with the DOJ. The DOJ takes a lot of time because we have a small DOJ staff, and there's a wide range of hours that are like unaccounted for. It makes it really, really difficult to try and sync up time scheduling. So we had to change it to it's a 72-hour hold. Basically, we kind of meshed it with a 72-hour hold that you're held for 3 IRL days. If the court case doesn't happen that quick, which it pretty much never does, you're released on quote unquote bail, and you'll still have to show up for your court case. If a court case is thrown down and you don't show up, then there's a warrant out for your arrest, or basically skipping bail. Essentially, is how it works. So yeah. And like Birdman just said, when he was the DA, he was basically having to be nonstop because of that. Now, our court cases have slowed way down since then, but even still, we don't like Marbaka is one of the DA members. He's really busy with school. Jaybird is stretched thin with his job and on several servers and doing stuff there. And Currency isn't super active on his DA. So we're in a situation where we don't really have a lot of active DA characters, which kind of puts a roadblock in the processing thing. We're trying to figure out if there's a way we can fix that to make DOJ move a little bit faster, but it's really hard because, like Galaxy said, with the way law is, our hands are kind of tied. We can't rewrite like basic human rights that we adhere to with our server in conjunction with U.S. law. So we're trying to figure out if there's some loopholes we can kind of figure out, or some maybe like a streamlined system or something. But until that happens, understand that if you're going to go to court, it's going to take time. Understand that as an officer, if you arrest somebody and it's a case that has to go to court, please be sure that you can prove it. This isn't, this isn't a situation where we're going to play the corruption arc of I'm going to send people to court because the courts are fucked and it'll fuck them over. And we're not doing that. Like that'll end up in a ticket. That's not okay. So being mindful that there's another player on the other side of that, and yeah, they may do the crime and they need to do the time and the fine, but it still needs to be fair. And then all of that being said, if you're playing a criminal, this is not licensed to go commit big, hefty level shit, knowing that the courts are screwed up and you're going to get away with it. That is not what this is. This is not me. Like, if you do something big, you're opting into it. You need to understand there's going to be consequences for your actions. In-character actions have in-character consequences. But just, I'm giving you guys as players the clarity on the outside of it that this is why things are functioning the way that they are, and being mindful of the way these things are currently.
I just wanted to kind of bring that part up for clarity's sake, because I'm not sure how many people actually know it that are outside of LEO.
Yeah, and that's why I'm clarifying it, so that people understand that, like, yeah, we have a few lawyers that are still active. No, there is a DOJ. There is, but it is very small right now. We have one active DA member. We actually have several active judges, but it's just hard with time scheduling. And then we have a couple active lawyers, but it's not as fast moving as it used to be. It's not as robust as it used to be. And obviously, like I said, we're trying to remedy that. I'm actually been talking to people, making my own DA character to try and help mitigate some of those issues, but I know nothing of law RP, and I literally don't even have a character slot right now. I have all 10 slots full because of various things. So trying to we're trying to explore every avenue we can think of to try and fix things. But at the end of the day, players just need to be mindful of these sorts of things as well. So
if I can actually just make a comment that'll bring us kind of full circle to something that was way at the beginning of the meeting today.
Yep.
When there's a court case going on, it feels a bit awkward when everybody goes to the court case.
See, I disagree.
Instead of, I mean, I understand it's a big thing, but when the majority of the population on server is into the courthouse and nothing is happening outside of it, even if you're on a character that doesn't even know who it is for what it's about, and you're just going there because, oh, that's where large crowd, that
I remember that
kind of throws me off just a little bit.
That's fair. I can understand that throwing off. I disagree personally because we are a smaller server. We have a smaller population, and because everybody kind of knows everybody to a degree, or there's a lot of crossover and things like that, not to mention, it's always good because that creates a temporary hub where you're running into people. Like, you're seeing other criminals there, you're seeing other civilians there, seeing other cops there, whatever. There could be a plethora of reasons why a character might go and witness a court case. So I because we are a smaller server, when we only have 20 or 30 people on, and when you've got, one lawyer, one prosecutor, you have a judge, you have the defendant, maybe you have somebody on the prosecution side as well. You've got a couple of bailiffs, or right there you're already up to almost 10, 8 or 10 people, just part of the court proceedings, not even just viewing. So then you have to factor in the rest of them. It's not a lot of people that are there viewing, but because we're a smaller server, it feels that way because we have 20 or 30 people on the server. So I think if we were sitting at a much higher number of player count every day, I would 100% agree with you, Melon, because if we had like a full 64 slot server and all 64 people were there, yeah, that might be a little bit weird. But when it's like, when 8 to 10 of those people alone are just part of the court proceeding, and then you have maybe another 10 people that just want to be there and watch it, it kind of makes sense because people are going to want to go there and watch it because they may not have anyone else to interact with because everybody's at the courthouse. At least for now. Obviously that may not be the way forever.
just food for thought on that.
For sure. And like I said, that's why I wanted people to bring things up, is because, like, while I disagree with you, it's great to have that perspective from the players as well.
Yeah, it was also a little bit of a scheduling, not a mishap. I don't know the correct word, but like I think like the night Melon's referring to is the same, like the hearing or whatever happened at the same time that Cyberbar scheduled the cosplay night, and so a bunch of people came and then everyone left, and then we essentially just sat at Cyberbar for like 2 or 3 hours, and we found out that there was a whole court case, but because either like in character or out of character, I had no idea.
Yeah. Well,
so that's just kind of what went down.
So typically when a court case is happening, it doesn't matter what the court case is, there's a channel in Discord. I forget what it's called exactly. One second. It is
Court case announcements in the DOJ section. It wasn't used for that case.
It wasn't used for that case. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, no, sorry, stepping up. I'm in driving, so my mic's probably horrible, but it was announced. It was announced like 3 or 4 days ahead of time.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was announced. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, with court cases, like being someone who I don't see all those tickets anymore, but saw all those tickets all the time, like you have to schedule so many people to be there. It sometimes they get scheduled last minute for one thing, as well as the fact that it's that court case has been waiting for 3 months at that point.
Yeah.
So I know that some people were upset that got scheduled at the same time as Cyberbar opening up, which hadn't opened in a long time. But sorry, like I mean, it had to go.
Yeah, that one had been waiting for a while.
For a very long time. Yeah.
I understand on like time constraint and time crunch, but also like if you're actively like going there to support the defendant, or you're a state employee going there to observe and watch, I can understand that. Everyone else who may have like if you're studying for lawyer position or whatever or something like that, that makes sense to me. But when I'm just gonna go on this part, but when Joe Blow off the street walks in because it's a court case, quote unquote free entertainment, better than live TV, when there's also that event that was happening down the road that I don't know how long it had been announced for prior to that, but
yeah, the one I now that I'm kind of realizing what we're talking about here more, I understand. Like you're referring to the night where Cyberbar was announcing that they were opening. All of a sudden, there was a court case that happened, and nobody went to Cyberbar. They were at the court case, right? Is that what you're talking about?
That's one of them.
Yeah.
But also just even before that, some of the things, but.
Yeah. So, and I completely understand like the frustration on that side. I felt bad because like I knew that Cyberbar had been opening. I knew people were excited about it, and everybody went to the court case. And it was like Smooth said, it was just horrible timing because it was the one time we were finally able to get that court case rolling, and it had literally been sitting for almost 3 months. And so we had to do it, even though it was really disappointing to have to put it on top of another event that was already scheduled, because I didn't even know Cyberbar was scheduled at the same time. I didn't realize it, and I was like, oh, shoot. Of course, I had no say in the scheduling of the court case because I wasn't involved directly in the case, but I still had to be there because of McNeil. But yeah, that was a huge bummer. And I mean, obviously, I will say to Melon's credit on this as well, is if you don't have a reason to be at a court case and there's another event going on, try to do both. Like go for a little bit during the court case or whatever, and then go to the event, or go to the event and then go to the court case, whatever. Like, try to get around and spread yourself out to other role play if you don't have a direct reason to be there. But like Minerva said, with that particular case, I'm trying to remember, like looking around the room, like in my mind's eye, and I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure most people that were there had some direct connection to it because it was one of those cases that touched a lot of people in a lot of areas just because of the severity of it. Like we had a lot of.
I'm not saying that wasn't.
Oh,
the
no.
case. That was.
Yeah.
I was kind of like out of the ways.
Sure.
On the knowledge of that one.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was what the gunning down street with.
Yeah, it was the one where I think the correct terminology is Axel's trying to sue the state. Yep. I believe is what it was. So it was kind of a bigger deal. It touched a lot of different people and a lot of different stuff. So that happens. And it's unfortunately it was really bad timing. But like I said, to Melon's credit, to encourage people, like, hey, if somebody puts out an event, try to really try to go to it. Like, try to come up with a reason why your character would go. Like, yeah, it may seem a little out of character for Gizmo to go to a cyber bar event, but that might be really important to them to have more players show up. They might be not having a lot of people show up to that. So Gizmo going and acting silly and drunk might be really fun for them to interact with. So like stuff like that. Like if there's an event going on the server, because we're such a small server right now, I think it's really important that we try to support those events when they happen so that people will continue to create events. I know that Hudson worked with us for a long time to try and do a sort of Comic-Con event, and I still feel bad that we've just never been able to really pull it off. I really, really want to. It was always really tricky to try and do, and timing and all that. It just never happened. But I would love to see people being able to do events and have them pull them off as often as they can, because like we were talking earlier, events are a great temporary hub. It's a great opportunity to interact with people, meet people, and then move on and go to another place after. So if people are hosting an event, like try to go, try to show up. It's they might really appreciate it.
I will say this though, Neon. I appreciate McNeil interacting over Twitter to see how things are over at Cyberbar and possibly trying to push people there.
I tried.
I think another thing too was that court case went on very, very long.
It was actually that case was actually a pretty quick case in comparison to others. It was actually moving pretty fast.
Except the judge deliberated for literally 30 minutes at the end of it.
That was the hard part, is that Jay was in a tough spot because of the way that he ruled the case. He literally had to deliberate for a half hour, almost more. Yeah, it was, and he felt bad for letting us hang there forever, but to answer the question and to deliberate the way that he did required him to do it for about 30 minutes. And so it was, unfortunately, because I was even thinking like, wow, this is going kind of quick. Maybe we'll be able to make it over to Cyberbar before they close. And then the judge was deliberating forever. We're like, well, all right, well, we're not going to Cyberbar now. So, but there's nothing that can happen with that. Like, we can only do what we can do.
P.S. Not bashing anyone who chose to go to court case over Cyberbar like that.
No, of course not.
You totally grateful to everyone who showed up. It was still good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was still, two things happening at once. People gravitating towards either one. It's just one of the. It just gets.
It happens. Yeah, there's
annoying when our population doesn't get skyrocket astronomical at times.
Yeah,
where two major events happening at the same time don't get overshadowed from each other.
Yep. So along with that, actually, something that I'd like to we can talk about is so we as a community, we as a staff team, we are trying very hard to come up with ways to bring visibility to our server to try and attract new players. We're actually, I'll tell you guys this now, we're actually moving to a new whitelist system that I'm really excited about. We're probably going to move to it today. That should allow players to more quickly fill out a whitelist application to join the server, as opposed to doing it through Google and having to wait 2 weeks. We are probably going to, as far as review process, we've been talking about shortening that to a much shorter time frame of getting to apps a lot quicker. But we're moving to an app system that is completely housed within Discord. So players are not having to click on a link and go somewhere else and fill out an app and go somewhere else. It's all done within Discord. It's all reviewed within Discord. It's all handled within Discord, which should expedite the process substantially. So things like that. We're working on updating our CFX server listings so that if people are just browsing around the server listings for a server, they can find our server and they can actually get to our Discord and all sorts of that from CFX without having to find us elsewhere. Our Twitter is still posting content pretty regularly. I know Mew's doing TikTok. We talked about doing stuff on YouTube. I know that really didn't get anywhere, and that's okay. Maybe we need to look at something there. But if anyone has ideas for a way to bring visibility to the server, ways to attract potential new players, we are all ears. We would love to start getting our name out there more and having people find out about us, because there are fucking probably millions of servers at this point. I don't even know how many. There are so many CFX 5M servers. It blows my mind. But I that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't get more exposure, more attention, more players to come play here. Along with that, another side of that coin is ways to attract currently existing whitelist players to play here, that are already here, that people have already filled an app, they're already whitelisted, already in the Discord, and just try to encourage players to hop on the server and either give it another try or to attract players who had a frustration or something, and maybe it's something we can curb or something that we can address. I'm not saying we can fix every single person's problem, But I don't believe that every single problem that exists on the server is something that we can't at least address, or at least talk about. But I did see that, Jesse, you raised your hand on a separate small dev question, so if you want to go ahead and ask that, go for it.
Yeah, I just suddenly thought of a feature that I've wanted for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know devs are busy right now with a bunch of stuff, and it's lit. I don't know if it's a suggestion or like question if it's in the works, but there's a lot of cars at PDM right now. And I think I saw a recent update to that you can drive until the fuel's out, so it's not on a timer anymore.
Correct.
Related to that, a question of whether it's possible and whether it can be made so that players, before purchasing a car, maybe while test driving it, can see for themselves what customizations it has.
Like being able to just preview it.
Times, yeah, like preview for themselves, because there's been a number of times when people like bought a car and then like you can't change HUD, you can't change nothing. Like
the command
like,
smooth is only for mechanics. You can only do that command if you're a mechanic.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking, because I've actually bumped from PDM into Benny's before, but yeah.
So there's a command. I don't remember what it is. I remember seeing somebody on stream do it. That's a sieve on our server, and it just shows a list. It doesn't show the preview like it does for mechanics. It just shows a list of like, it has 7 spoilers. It has this. It has that. Like it's I can't remember what it was. It was Big Seth. I remember seeing that on his stream on our server.
Are you sure it was our server?
Positive.
Okay.
I'm positive. Like I can't remember what the command was.
I have that turned off.
Weird.
So
maybe it's turned off now, but it wasn't at one point.
Okay.
It might have been a oopsie doopsie, because I've had it turned off just for mechanic RP purposes.
Yeah,
I mean, if we do think that like, if we want, it's easy for me to turn it on or off. So like, if we decide like we need to change it, but yeah, right now it's off. Only mechanics can preview.
Is this the type of thing that like you just preview how many options it has, or is it the one where you can preview every single one and like view what they actually do? Do you remember?
There's a
it was a command that brought up a list. It wasn't a preview like mechanics have, where you can see at what they look like and what they're called. It just had a list of, like it said, it has 7 spoilers. It has 5 bumpers or whatever.
Gotcha.
I don't remember what it was. I remember seeing him do it.
Well, if it's as simple as Mew's talking about, as far as just turning things back on or things like that, we can absolutely look into that. I personally speaking, right here in this moment, I don't have a massive issue with people being able to just simply see what options, like, or how many options they have. I'm hesitant in like opening up like the /preview command essentially for just everyone to use, but that's something we can talk about as devs. I think that's a very small request to make, and I think that's something that we can absolutely look into. I'm taking notes as we talk about this, by the way. So I have this
it's even better if they don't have preview, because then what's gonna go down is they're gonna see, oh, this has that many spoilers, and then they can come to a mechanic shop and they'll be like, hey, I know this car has a bunch of options to it.
Can you show me what they are?
What they are?
Yeah.
There's also like what I did. I was on Jack. I'm a mechanic. I could have probably gone up to LS Customs and back to PDM, probably on fumes, but still. But I bumped over to Benny's and I had Aeon's character Reyna just buzz through some of the cosmetic items, buzz through what it would look like.
Sure.
I think that could also help if we bumped from like, an eighth of a tank of fuel.
So the reason that the reason that the tank of fuel is so low is because we moved to a system that's based on fuel and not on time. Is because we don't want people to run to PDM, grab a car, and then go use it for anything beyond previewing it. Like, the idea behind a test drive is to test drive the vehicle and bring it right back. It is not to go get a free-to-use vehicle and go commit a crime in it, or go use it for a job and then come back. Like, it's literally to be used for test driving only. So that's why the fuel is so small as far as like how much is in the tank. I
absolutely understand that.
Yeah, we might be open to adjust it a tiny amount if we need to, if we're noticing that it's just not enough fuel. But again, the reason the fuel is low is because it's supposed to be used what it's supposed to be used for. I think the idea of opening up some sort of a preview ability, or not preview, but like some sort of list ability where you can kind of see like a generalized list of what cars may have options on them. I think that's very reasonable. I think it's something we might be able to look into. So I've written it down, and I can talk to the dev team about it. It sounds like Mew already has an idea, which is great. So we can definitely explore that. But hey, if Benny's is open, it's literally next door. You don't need a lot of fuel to have them look through it. So just drive traffic to Benny's. But yeah, so that I have that on my list, so we can definitely discuss that.
Yeah, Benny's is definitely a prime location for that sort of thing. I think with the way that the fuel is right now, it's like a really hit or miss if you'll make it back to PDM if you go to Hayes or LS Customs, but I don't see how it wouldn't be possible.
Okay, I was gonna say because like I mean you again it's supposed to be like a very short trip, so as long as people are able to grab the vehicle, test drive it around a small area around PDM, get a generalized feel for the car, and bring it back, it's doing its job. But I can see right now that devs are already kind of brainstorming some potential ideas for how to maybe come up with a solution for this. So we'll talk through it. We'll figure out a system, and then we'll put it on our project list and start working towards that. Like I said, I don't think it's a big request. I think it's something very simple, nice, good quality of life features, so people have more information before they purchase a car, because cars are expensive. We recognize that. And it's kind of a big deal to purchase a car. So we'll try and help you guys have the most information that we can give you so that you're able to make an informed buying decision, essentially.
My final comment on this, because you said the cars are expensive, I think for our economy on the server, they are perfectly fine.
Yeah, our economy's in a weird spot because some players are sitting on boatloads of money and others are like barely getting by. So as a whole, we are reviewing a lot of things around economy, including car prices, but we understand that because we have the financing option for cars, that they are anything through PDM is so far as seeming okay. We might be adjusting some car prices, maybe ? But as of right now, there's nothing that's set in stone as to what we're planning on doing. But with the financing option, it does make cars oh my gosh, this car's super expensive. But then when you hit the finance button, you're able to see, oh, it's actually really affordable because it's only 20% of the overall price of the car. So it makes it a little bit easier to get your hands on a car that you think is out of range. Now, that doesn't apply for cars that are sold at the mechanic shops, but that's another conversation that we've been having around those vehicles, and we're still figuring out how to handle all that. So hopefully that will give a little bit of clarity on the car situation. And then as far as the preview thing, we'll figure something out for that. Okay, so speaking of cars, I do want to bring up one thing that is this is more of like a note to bring you guys, and then we can talk about it, because I understand this is gonna be a little bit of a some people probably won't care and some people might, but after extensive testing, and I mean extensive, like months of fine-tuning and testing and discussion and all sorts of stuff around vehicles and vehicle upgrades and vehicle handling and vehicle balancing, we finally have come to a situation where the cop cars we feel they're in a pretty good state. We feel that civilian cars, for the most part, obviously you have your outliers that we're hearing about and we're fixing almost immediately, but for the most part are a pretty good state. But something that is making handling and balancing of vehicles almost impossible is upgrades to vehicles, because the way the upgrades work is they're literally just applying a base vanilla level, like GTA vanilla level value to a vehicle as like a percentage, and then it's just applying it to the handling that we've already created, which creates a situation that makes it literally impossible for the dev team to try and actually balance, despite how we've literally been trying for a year between RAM and Galaxy to figure out a balancing system, to figure out a way to compensate for those engine changes or whatever. So we've basically come to a decision on that particular issue, and what we're going to be doing is we made the decision to remove the vehicle engine as an upgrade. Only the vehicle engine. Like, we're leaving suspension, we're leaving transmission, we're leaving turbo, we're leaving brakes, all that sort of stuff is staying. But engines themselves, as far as like tier 1 and tier 2 engines, are going to be removed as an upgrade item. The reason for this is because we have tried everything we can think of to try and balance these with everything else on the server and keep them affordable for players without basically making our devs lose their minds, because they've tried everything they can think of and nothing that we do actually works to try and balance the vehicles out once an engine's been upgraded. It literally, in some vehicles, it can literally throw a vehicle from a C class into a B class immediately with an engine upgrade. And then cops are basically sitting there going, well, we can't even, our pursuit modes can't even come close to this. It just gets rockets and it's gone. Versus if a car has like all the upgrades minus the engine, the car is able to outrun the cops, but it's like a fair chase. Like the cops are actually able, like if they're driving well, they can kind of keep up, but they're not just getting bolted away where a car goes from like a C to a B instantly. So we literally have tried everything we can think of to not make that call and to not do that to people's cars before basically going, we're out of options. We don't know what else we can do. So essentially what will end up happening is those engine upgrades will be removed as items, as people won't be able to purchase them. They won't go in cars. They'll be pulled from cars through the database. But anyone who purchased an engine upgrade, all they have to do is open a ticket with us. You're going to get all your money back. We're not going to punish you guys on that because this isn't your guys' fault. It's something we've discovered through the code that we just can't, no matter what we do, no matter what things we throw at it, we can't sort. Unless we had an entire team of developers who were only working on cars and only working on car handling and had the time to go through every single car and every single value for how an upgrade affects that car, we won't be able, we can't fix that problem. We can do it with the regular base handling, but when the engine handling comes into play, it drastically adjusts the class of the vehicle without us being able to kind of police it, essentially. Like even when we nerfed things, the engine upgrades, because they're using the base GTA vanilla values that are it's a different, basically a different file essentially. It would completely like just kibosh all of our changes. It just kind of ignores it. It just does what it wants to, and then cars are super powerful. It's crazy. And like I said, we've tried everything we can think of to try and balance things out. We've tried instituting balancing and everything. It's just not working. So we all recognize that is not a fun thing for us to be like, hey, we're pulling these upgrades, but we are leaving everything else. Like you'll still be able to upgrade your turbos, your suspension, your transmission, your brakes, all of that. Like this only thing is the engines themselves. Melon, I saw you raise your hand.
Okay, I have one question and one leading comment with this. First, I'm going to speak as someone who is a mechanic on the server, and drives cars zoomy fast all the time. I have done, just general observational look here. This is how it's working for me.
Sure.
I've noticed that the engine upgrades, it's not going to be that huge of a detriment to anybody's vehicle because all it really did was increase your top speed and maybe your acceleration a little bit.
I believe it doesn't touch acceleration at all from the code perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for at least the top speed wise,
yes. Yeah.
I only saw an improvement of about, this was the tier 2 engine, the highest engine we can provide. 10 miles an hour.
Yep.
On average.
That's about right. And believe it or not, it was actually coded to be less than that.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem.
It's not a huge impact.
Yeah.
As someone, just so nobody like freaks out or panics about, oh no, one of these parts is getting removed. I'm sitting here as, someone who's driven the cars 24/7 and.
Well, the problem with that is if it's increasing at 10 miles per hour, it's a C-class car, it then becomes a B-class.
And
if you think about it that way, because that's based on top speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking at it like this, I remember, Smooth, you were with a cadet one day and you were trying to chase the Prairie. The Prairie has an engine upgrade. It has basically everything besides suspension, I believe. Without the engine, the Prairie is only like 115. Which is on a flat.
Yep, which is a C-class car because that's what it's supposed to be.
And that is, high C-class. I've also seen, though, as high C-classes, we can get those up to 120 on flats sometimes. That's with the engines. So, yeah, it's not the biggest impact.
Yeah,
so I'm just trying to, as a player here, kind of push on don't worry, guys, this is fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate that because, it's like I said, we're leaving everything else. Like if you want your car to get up to speed faster, slap that turbo and transmission in there. If you want to slam your car down to the ground, put that suspension on there. Like we're leaving all of the customization options so that you can make the car your own. The only reason the engines are being removed is because, like you said, the tier 2 engine can go maybe an average of 10 miles an hour higher. Believe it or not, the code that we were trying to implement for the engines was actually less than that so that we didn't jump an entire class with an engine upgrade, but it wasn't listening to us. It was still applying this this higher level of speed to a vehicle that shouldn't be getting it, and was literally jumping it from one class to the other. And then cop cars are basically chasing a C-class vehicle that is realistically a B-class vehicle, but we can't change our pursuit modes because of the rules we put in place for it, and because the game is telling us that it's a C. So when you take all of that, mix it in with the fact that we've been trying and throwing code at this and throwing tests at this for ages, and it comes down to the point of the real pressure point, the real problem child is the engine upgrades themselves, basically doing what they want to do. Unfortunately, all we can really do is pull the engine upgrades as an item, reimburse everybody dollar to dollar what you paid for it, and then everything else is staying as far as upgrades. We didn't see any massive issues with the other upgrades being available where they're currently at, of being able to adjust your transmission or your suspension or anything. It creates a different driving experience, but it doesn't make it so that the cop cars have no chance in hell of catching them.
Mm-hmm. And then just to follow up with my question on this, is this a as soon as possible kind of thing, as in like next restart, next iteration of like when we start up the server again? Or is this a everybody get your tickets in within a certain time frame and then pull the plug?
Well, I can tell you, Galaxy, correct me if I'm wrong, you said there's only 6 cars on the server that have engine upgrades in them?
Yeah, last time I checked, which was a couple weeks ago, there's like 6 cars. I think 2 of them are owned by one person too.
Yeah,
so
it's
not a lot.
That feels low to me.
Yeah,
just considering. But okay,
we also had a complete reset.
Yeah, the wipe that we did at the end of last year affected that, because that was different before that. But yeah, so there's not a lot of cars that have the engine upgrades in them, so we are going to be pulling. We're going to be pulling them as soon as we can. I don't think it's going to be today, because basically what we have to do is our dev team has to run a script basically to remove a certain line of the engine code from our database, and then when it does that, players who had the engine upgrades can either open tickets with us or we can open tickets with them, whatever's easier. And then we reimburse them the money and it's done. Hell, we might even be able to just go into find out who the owner of the vehicle was and just add it to their account in the database and just say, hey, if you check your account next time you log on, you'll have, $10,000 or whatever.
Okay.
Because there's so few of them.
The engines from the store will be a lot faster.
Yeah,
and
that
that'll
will only happen.
Not this next patch, but the patch after.
Okay. As well, I know there's at least one person that I was technically working with as parts for a car and removing from one and putting to another kind of deal. They still have an engine. Are they going to probably be able to get reimbursed for it that way, since it was there, yada yada?
Well, I'm sorry, can you reword that? I didn't quite understand what you meant.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Verbiage. So somebody bought the engine, had it in a vehicle. We removed it and we're planning to get it into a different vehicle for the upgrades.
And it's not in it yet?
It's not in it yet,
okay,
but we have it stored at a location. I was just wondering, can that person get their reimbursement too?
If the item has been purchased, it doesn't matter if it's in a car or not. If the item has been paid for, we will reimburse you for it. We understand that like this is not us punishing people. This is us going, we're out of options. We don't know what else to do. So if you paid for something, you're going to get your money back. It's as simple as that. I'm not the kind of admin server owner that's going to be like, nope, you paid for it, get fucked. Like, no. You paid for it, we're pulling the item, you're going to get your money back. Simple as that.
Okay.
I just need people to open tickets and be honest with me and be very open of like, hey, I bought 2 engines. One's here, one's in this car. We can go, cool, pull the engines, give you the money back, whatever. But this is not time to take advantage of take advantage of the staff team and start opening tickets of like, hey, I purchased an engine. It's just sitting in a storage somewhere. Because like we can check logs, we can check databases and confirm what you're saying. And it comes to find out that you're lying to us to get an easy $10,000, you're gonna get in trouble. So don't do that.
I'm gonna act as doing this real quick, but Links had a question regarding the car classes, and as a player, I can quickly just give you a baseline of how I look at it is the price of the car. If it's not always the best indicator, but it is a face value indicator that you can look at for the classification.
Well, it won't really matter because the devs right now are already talking. We're discussing a way to make classes publicly available to players so they know, hey, this car is this class and this car is this class.
That too.
Yeah, so I was gonna say it is coming down that we will make it abundantly clear to everybody what car is in what class so that you don't have to wonder. I do want to make it clear because some people will go, oh, a C-class vehicle, that's not as good as an A-class. Not necessarily. The way that our current server is as far as vehicle handling, both in relation to like Civ to Civ car and Cop to Civ car, is that we've specifically built the pursuit modes for LEO vehicles to match the car you're driving. So if you really like a C-class car because you like the look of it, you're not going to get an unfair chase with cops. Their car is going to chase you pretty fairly to what your car is. If you want to go to do a street race, the way street races are currently coded, you have to race a C-class versus a C-class. You can't race a C and an A. So the way we've done it is it's kind of now more for flavor, where if your character really likes their C-class car, you don't have to go upgrade to an A-class to be viable in a chase or be viable in a pursuit. You can still do all of that because we've balanced everything out the way that it is. Oh my gosh.
I tried to hold my chuckle.
The
I'm
fucking
sorry.
devs, man. They always do this to me. But yeah, so we will be giving, we'll try and give you guys some sort of indicator as to what the classes of the cars are. Damn it. Okay. Oh my gosh. All of you guys now. I hate it here. We'll try and give you guys some sort of indicator as to what classes are on what cars to give you guys more information to make it easier on y'all. I understand that it can be a little frustrating, so hopefully that'll help. But I was saying I don't have an ET on when that'll happen. I'm just telling you guys that I'm okay with devs working on that. We will come up with something on that, but it's not going to be a super big priority. Wow. Fuck off, Galaxy. Damn. So anyways. So yeah, that was kind of the big, like, hey guys, this is the sorry thing I have to bring up is the engine upgrades. But to be honest, that's the only thing I have that's like a negative today to bring up is the engine upgrades. Everything else is just kind of conversational. So we'll go ahead and get that taken care of soon. We will let you guys know when it happens. But we wanted to wait to do anything until we talk to you. Oh yeah, JLab, we did an economy wipe, only an economic wipe, back in December, I think, November, somewhere around there. We did an eco wipe to try and balance things out with the new economy that we were bringing in with new mechanics. At this point, I mean, it's been a while. The economy's pretty much balanced itself back out again. It happened a while ago, kind of thing. So it's kind of moot point now. We brought in a lot of new ways to make money. We've been adjusting the payout on things. We're continuing to monitor all of the ways to make money on the server, both criminal and civilian, so that we can balance how people are making income to make sure that it's rewarding, things like that. So, okay. Does anyone else have things they'd like to raise their hand and bring up? Anything that you guys would like I said, good, like if you have positive feedback, if you have like critical feedback, oh no, you're good, JLab. Like critical feedback, positive feedback, suggestions, requests, things like that. Like this is the time for those sort of conversations. I know that Jesse and Melon have been talking the most, but everyone here is welcome to speak up if you guys have something you guys want to, and it could be just simple, hey, I really appreciate this thing. That's fine too. Basically appreciate it, Melon. Basically, the entire point of this meeting is for you guys to help us help make the server better. Like, because we can sit here and we can code the best server we can think of all day long, but if we're missing perspective on something that players just really, really want, or something that we're just not seeing, this is a golden opportunity for you guys to bring it to us so that we can do that. Yeah, what's up, Ty?
I appreciate all of staff.
Oh, there it is. Right on cue. Thank you, Ty. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Help me help you.
Yeah, the help me help you, exactly. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier, like when I was talking about the experiment that the staff member did with those characters that were tweeting and weren't getting any response. Like, we can code the best server we can think of. We could literally make OSRP mechanically the best server on 5M, but it doesn't matter if the players aren't interacting with things, if you guys aren't enjoying things, if something just doesn't feel right, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, if you guys aren't having fun, you guys aren't going to log in. So we want to try and make sure that the server is a good roleplay story server, but is also fun to be on and is rewarding to interact with. So, all of that. That's why we had this meeting the way we're having it, is to allow you guys to be heard and allow you guys to bring things to us that maybe we're not thinking of. I will say also, while you guys are thinking, and if anybody wants to talk up or anything like that, we are, like I said, we're working on a lot of stuff right now. There will be a patch today that will be releasing quite a few things, which will be fun. And I know, Galaxy, do you have that teaser? You want? Because I mean, at this point, if you want to drop that teaser in community meeting chat, you can.
Teaser.
Yep.
Teaser.
Yeah.
What teaser?
Teaser.
If you don't have it, that's fine. I just remember you said you were gonna make one.
Yeah, I didn't like make any teaser.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, none of these guys are gonna care anyway. It's just lame cop stuff, you know.
Yeah, that's true. It's just
It's
lame
okay.
cop
We're
stuff.
only
Yeah.
slightly disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Well, all right. Here. I guess I can show you guys this.
Lame cop stuff name.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it is Mew. It's the cop stuff you're thinking of.
I do wish I could bring up more things, but mostly whenever I log on cop because he's my main now.
Which is fine.
So.
That's fine. Everybody moves around and has
Yeah.
different mains. Like my main used to be McNeil, and then it became Gizmo. Like it's just, and then now it's back to McNeil again. It happens. Like things move around quite a bit, and it's okay.
I
like,
want to do Marcus things.
Here you go. So Galaxy's streaming. If everybody wants to pull up her stream, and then. Oh, you're showing this thing. Oh, okay.
It's this thing.
Okay.
Because this thing's all right. It's pretty okay.
I think it's pretty cool. It fucking made my day.
Yeah, I guess it's okay. I mean, we all like the Stanier, right? It's a pretty cool cop car. But what if you get on duty and you like your cop car so much you want to make it your own and have everybody be able to easily identify you?
Hell yeah!
Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, please tell me the ambulance will have this too.
That'd be cool.
Maybe
if you
not
could just,
dispatch, but later.
set your call sign on your car. That'd be pretty neat, right? I'm sure people would like that.
Yeah. Yes, Ty, if we can get the logic set up and working properly for all the cop cars, then yeah, we can absolutely apply it to medical as well.
I love you.
They'll be like, hey, what's your badge number? I'm like, check out my car, dude.
Yeah. Well, maybe you guys like when you're on a crazy scene, you'll like not take each other's cars and stuff anyway.
Or be able to tell who the car is in front of you during a pursuit. You actually be able to just visually see, oh, that's that's Vazdal in front of me, or that's Lynch in front of me.
So yeah, we'll I'm getting this put on all the cop cars. It's relatively straightforward, and we'll update all the cop cars with that. And I'll update the EMS vehicles. The only one that won't get it is the Speedo, because we would have to.
We'd have to use a different model.
Yeah, we'd have to use a different model.
Which I can go looking for. Like, I'm fine to do that.
We'll probably want to do at some point anyway, because there's some issues with the model anyway.
Yeah, that light on the front that never stops.
Yeah.
Wait. We have a Speedo?
The Speedo van.
We have one of those?
The Ambo does, yeah.
Oh,
Ambo.
you're talking the Ambo.
Well, technically, police has a prison transport Speedo, but it's only spawned in by me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gatekeeping.
No, it's just we don't have a way to spawn it right now.
No, yeah.
But yes, we will. I'll Galaxy. I'll go looking around, see if I can find an open source Ambo Speedo, or we might just have to figure something out and make our own or something.
Yeah. That's not that big of a deal.
See, I was thinking of something completely different, but this is also very cool.
You were. I guess I could show that thing.
I was gonna say I was thinking something completely different too.
Like I said, guys, our team's been very, 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 very busy.
I'm just being a fucker. I know what you guys want.
I know you are. I could tell in your voice. I'm like, you're just being an ass. Like.
I was curious.
You know what we want you to show, Galaxy. Do you need another person or no?
I've got an image that will be helpful here.
Okay, cool. So for those of you who are just listening to the community meeting, Galaxy just showcased a quick little snippet on a stream where you're able to apply your LEO or EMS call sign or number to the roof of your vehicle as an attachment inside the workbenches at the different stations, so that you can visually tell whose cars is whose when you're out on a scene or you're out driving around, which is pretty cool because that's something we've wanted for a while. So
yeah, and it's not a it's not like a livery or anything. It's straight up like extras basically on the car. So
I love the way you did it too.
Or anything, so.
I love that you did it where you enter a number instead of having to, like, because the way I've seen it done in the past on other servers is you literally have to cycle the three numbers. Like you go, okay, section 1 is like a 4, section 2 is like a 2, and then so on. The fact that you actually enter a number, it just goes boop. I love that. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, you know how I am. I hate seeing stuff like that, and want to make it better. You know.
I love this too for the fact that if we actually get Air One deployed at any point in time, we know who the heck we're talking to down below.
Yep.
Oh, here we go. Here. There you go. There's a picture of a scout.
Let's see if anyone can pick up what's in the picture that makes it special, because it took me about 5 minutes when I first saw it, and then I pogged pretty hard.
Is it the badge on the door?
Mm-mm. It's not Turtle. Smooth, you ass.
It's allowed to park on the sidewalk.
Damn, dude.
That's what it is, right?
Very, very good, Freeman. That's no. Wild Rose and Joel got it.
Wait,
Oh my god, I see it now. Yeah.
it's Scout in a Scout.
Yes.
That's an old one. That's an old one.
Yes,
But
it is.
checks out.
Yeah, Ricky nailed it. It's yes, that is what's happening.
Coming soon to a PD kennel near you.
Yep.
There you go.
And to clarify before everybody starts asking, these will be player controlled, not AI spawned.
I can make a dog. Be a dog.
There will be doggos, yes. And I'm not going to say any more than that, but I will say this. It's one of the coolest things that our server is going to have, and I'm super excited. It's going to be awesome. So,
Woof.
yes, woof. I will say this. We have not written an SOP for this yet. The reason we don't have an SOP for this yet is because it's not done. I have mentioned it to the rest of LEO Command that we need to start working on something, but we still have to write a SOP for it on the certification and how that's all going to work, who's going to be eligible, all that sort of jazz. So just there you go. That's the teaser. It is in the works. It's really fucking cool. But it is not ready yet. But now you guys know one of the things that's being worked on. So yeah. All right. Now that we've given you guys some shinies to look at, is there anything else that you guys, that anyone here would like to bring up? Will say I did receive a message that we did receive an anonymous comment to the staff team on something that I'm going to bring up. So I'm going to read it word for word. Okay. So this is the words of the person who wrote it. It says, in the beginning of the server, one of the main focus for gang RP was not to have hand-holding gangs being too friendly with each other, and as time went by, gangs would do things together as for robbing houses and stores and even other players, and not enough conflict with one another. Seems like the server has been moving towards being a rainbow gang, or like all the colors being friends with each other. I can state that, yes, the original focus of the server when we launched was to have gangs all be in conflict with one another. I can't say that we've held up to that in that regard. I would say that, yeah, gangs have, they interact with each other pretty freely, and sometimes they will do crime with each other. Part of that, I think, is just simply down to the fact of we are a small server that tries to encourage gangs, people spreading out and being in part of their own crews instead of everybody joining the same gang. I don't know. I honestly don't have an answer or a reason or a theory as to why gangs aren't fighting each other or aren't conflicting with each other. I'm sure there are probably reasons. I'm sure there are probably things for, like, yeah, Fresh, absolutely. Go ahead and speak on that.
All right, my mic is probably fucked because I'm on my phone.
You're good.
But so with that, I can tell you there have been a lot of the gangs fighting each other. It's not big and eccentric as it probably was before, like with families and ballers, like how we were shooting at each other damn near every day. But if you're around the gang RP, you can see it happen. Like with the Vagos and Marbunta, they had a falling out, but after a while, you don't want to just keep shooting at somebody like that. That's not that. So that's not the whole point of gang RP. Is not to be like all these other servers where the gangs are just constantly fighting each other. What gangs, mostly of what I'm saying here, is they're more focused on just protecting their turf, making their money, and doing their moves. The only time that conflict really happens is when someone's oversteps a boundary. But for as long as the gangs have been on the servers and how they've already interacted with each other, they already know, like they kind of already have an idea of each other's boundaries and where to step and where not to step. So that's kind of why the gang violence and all the other shit kind of dropped down, is because we know how to move around each other to where we're not stepping on each other's toes, but we're able to do what we want to do.
That's a really good way to word that. Yeah.
The other gangs.
Yeah, that's because he's right. Because like, so when the Vagos were beefing with MBG, very very brief. I mean, it's like, well, I'll say brief. It was like a 2-week war. It started over a miscommunication. Literally, I didn't intend to do something that ticked off Ness as Gizmo, and she got pissed and she came over and she meant to. I talked to Tease about it. They were meaning to shoot up the block, and just so happened I happened to be there still, and so she shot Gizmo up, and Gizmo's like, "Fuck that," and it turned into a war, and it lasted for about 2 weeks. Now, wars are really small and hard to see when there's only a total of 2 members on each side. When you only have 4 shooters in total, it's not a very big war, right? So it's kind of hard to see that. That being said, sometimes crims are going to do crime together. Like, for example, if Gizmo's alone and I bump into Ness and we're not beefing, I don't think there's anything wrong with Gizmo and Ness going to commit a crime. Or if Sosa is around and he bumps into Ness, for example, or to a Nezca or something, and they're bored and they want to go make some money, I don't think there's anything wrong with 2 gang members going and doing crime together, even if part of different sets. And who knows, that could lead to potential conflict where the 2 of them are going out to do crime. And let's say this almost happened with me and Ness. Actually, Gizmo and Ness were robbing houses or something, and we got chased by the cops. And I was going to dump her off so that she could get out and run. And I said, "Take your seatbelt off." And then no sooner did the words leave my mouth, I hit I lost control of the car and I hit a fire hydrant, and she ejected because she had just taken her seatbelt off. And so she was pissed on the side of the road, screaming at Gizmo, saying how she's going to kill me and all this sort of stuff. And she didn't expect me as Gizmo to actually back up, get out, and actually grab her and try to get away with her to try and save her. And so it didn't lead to conflict, but it very well could have if I just kept driving off, because she would have been like, "You abandoned me, blap blap," and we would have been in another war. So I think there's obviously a balance that needs to be there in regards to players of different sets or different crews doing things together or interacting together. But like Fresh said, the gangs kind of know where the lines are. They know where they can and can't step in a way to either start or avoid conflict with another group. I think that as resources become more because like we said, we're trying to open things up for players to be able to kind of run themselves without staff involvement. So I think as more and more groups start to get their hands on different resources and start to build up these businesses and control these different things based on these resources, conflict might start with people wanting to get access to those things rather than going through and buying them from a group. That does take time for those little mini industries to get established and get working. But there's also the aspect of sometimes I think players need to be willing to fuck up, even though out of character they know if I do this, it's going to be conflict. But I think it's very important for players to be like, would my character get drunk and accidentally go spray paint somebody's turf? Would my character, whatever, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but would my character do this out of character knowing it's going to start conflict, right? Like, it's okay to make mistakes on your character and let RP come from it. I think it's also important, like Fresh said, that gang wars don't last forever. I think they should come to a resolution at some point, whether it's a peaceful resolution, whether it's just a pact of this has been going on long enough, no more bloodshed needs to stay. You stay on your corner, I'll stay in mine. It doesn't even necessarily be peace, just like acceptance of we're done shooting each other. It could be some sort of negotiation of I will give you this if you give me that, and we'll call it square. It could be any number of those things. I do want to ask, for anyone who plays a gang member in the server, I'm just curious. in regards to our gang rules, as far as gang limits, turf limits, things like that, does that feel like it's do they feel appropriate? Do they feel like they work for gang RP? Like, does it make sense? Does it feel fun? Like, obviously, we're trying to make adjustments where needed. We're trying to make sure that things are fun and entertaining for folks, but like we want to make sure also that we're not like hamstringing. Like, obviously we have rules for a reason. Like, we made, obviously, turf limits, for example, we made them a rule for a reason. I don't want to completely kibosh them, but at the same time, I'm open to hearing feedback. What's up, Melon?
I'm not actively in. I say actively when literally one of my characters is supposed to be the lead of one, but that's details. But as it stands, I think it's a decent spot with the current kind of population that we on average are getting. Like, looking at each of the gangs as I see it, with all of the characters I have been through and looking at the different gangs, I see on average 3 to a gang.
That's about right.
At the time, I'm only seeing 1 or 2 of those gang members at a time.
Yeah. That's about accurate. MBG right now is 1 active member. Vagos is usually 1 at a time because Swerb and I play different times. I know that CGF is usually 2, 1 to 2, sometimes 3. I know that Punks ranges from up and down from 1 to like 2 or 3 or 4. I know that we have a new group that just popped up on the server, and when they roll around, they're anywhere from 3 to 4, which is pretty cool. I know the bikers, when they're around, they are usually around in pretty good numbers, which is pretty cool. So I think it's a pretty good range. Personally, I agree. I was just curious what some of the other players who play gangs think about it. Like I said, I'm constantly trying to think of ways to enhance gang RP. Gang RP is something that is one of my favorites. But I missed that. So what if 2 gang members from different gangs decide to rob a store, let's say Mirror Park or Little Soul, and they decide to rob or shoot, and now it becomes 2v? Hold on. What if those 2 gang members from different gangs decide to rob a store, let's say Mirror Park or Little Soul, and they decide to rob them or shoot them, and now it becomes a 2v1 war thing? Wait. Decide to rob or shoot who?
So say like Ballas and families decide to do something together, God forbid, and they go to Mirror Park and rob a store there, and it turns into a conflict with the Lost. Now suddenly it's Ballas and families versus Lost, right?
So like I said, we did adjust our alliance rule a while back, and so technically that would fall under that that rule where, let's say, CGF and Ballas go rob Mirror Park, so it's Lost versus those 2 groups. It's up to Lost and Ballas if they want to fight them together. They go, fuck you, I'm just going to handle it myself. Or if they're gonna be like, yeah, well, let's team up kind of thing, as long as the max player count is equal. Like that rule still applies. So you can read our rules to update yourself on how it was verbally on the verbiage was updated. But you can have a temporary alliance with another group, provided that it comes to a resolution, it comes to an end. It can't be a permanent alliance, and as long as the player count is equal to the opposing force. So let's say if all the Lost members are around, it's 4 members or whatever, that means that only 2 Ballas or 2 CGF or 3 CGF and 1 Balla or whatever can fight that fight. 6 per side, so it could be 3 plus 3 v6, exactly. So you could have 3 and 3 v6, or you could have 4 and 2, or however you guys want to work the math out, as long as the total count is equal to the other side. I know that's kind of like getting into like very video gamey, but it's to try and make sure that people aren't getting steamrolled over things like that, because that's a really good opportunity for some great good old Overwatch days. It's a great opportunity for some good conflict, but we don't want people to get utterly steamrolled when those sort of things happen. So if you ever have confusion on something like that, let's say something like that happens and you're like, shit, now we're in conflict, what do we do? Open a ticket and talk to us. Maybe there's something we can help you out with. But yeah, okay, cool. I wanted to just feel you guys out on that. All right, well, let's see. We went over, I'm trying to think of all my talking points. I think that pretty much covers what I was going to talk about. I guess I'll give another last kind of check. Does anyone here have anything that they'd like to bring some feedback up on, suggestions, ideas, things you're not a fan of, things you are a fan of, anything like that you guys would like to chit chat about? I'm open hearing it. Awkward silence. Okay. Well, I want to thank you guys very much for coming on out and chatting with us and bringing some ideas up and being kind of more relaxed setting. I think we've addressed all of the comments. We obviously addressed Ren's points from her request, the anonymous comment that was brought to us, all the questions here. If I missed a question here in community meeting chat, just go ahead and like reply to that comment and tag me like muted so that I can see it and we can go over it. I think we're good with those. Like I said, remember we're gonna go ahead and let you. We'll give you guys heads up on the engine removals, so that you guys are not caught unawares. But again, if you guys do have an engine upgrade or however many you've purchased, just open a ticket with us and we will reimburse you for that when we pull the engines out. We're gonna be pushing a patch here in just a little bit when we bring the server back up that should have some things on it. We'll put a patch note out for that. Is that a clown horn?
That was my fucking chair.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Also, like I said, we're going to be moving to a new whitelist system today. It's going to be, and actually this new application system will be the same thing. Well, that's what I was thinking for a split second. I was like, Goose. This new whitelist system will be here in Discord. So if anybody says, where's the whitelist app? It will be in its own whitelist application channel. People will have to have the community role, so they'll have to agree to our rules at the first start here window. And once they have that role, they'll see the channel and they can fill out a whitelist app, and then it will send it to us here in Discord. So we should be able to get to them quicker. If anyone has any questions on that, they'll be able to. You guys can help them with that if you see it. We will also be moving all applications to Discord. So if there's a state app like LEO or EMS or DOJ or anything like that, they will all be moving into Discord through this same system. It's going to take me time to convert them all, but this should also help people get applications reviewed faster. So if you put an application in for something, you should get a response much quicker now, because it doesn't mean that people have to track me down like Wild Rose did and ask where an application is that's been in there for a while. And I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot to check that one. So this will now be a much quicker system. So yeah. I think I'm out of things at that point. We will bring the server back up here shortly. Devs have some stuff we got to push. I got to make sure it's on live and working, and then we'll bring the server back up and we will tag you guys to bring it back up. Tag you guys that it is back up. But yeah, and also guys, if you guys I know that people have suggested like some sort of suggestion feature. We're looking into that in a constructive way. But if you guys have ideas specifically around just helping the server grow, whether that's exposure, whether that's something you feel you could help benefit, like, hey, I have this really good talent with such and such, and I think it would be great to try and help boost the server. Great. Whatever it is, we are open to hearing those suggestions and trying to figure out ways we can just bring people into the server. That'd be something that we'd love to hear from you on. Whatever it is, just understand that we are a very small staff team right now. And we are stretched very, very, very thin. Like, I don't even get to play on the server these days because I'm just basically working 40 hours a week and then coming home and working in the evening. So whatever you suggest or whatever you request or anything like that, please understand that we will do our best. But we are tiny, but we are mighty, but we are tired. Along with that, if you put in requests for like a business or like something like that, we will try to get to it, but we are getting through our higher priority items first. Like Mew said, please continue to put clips in the channel for TikToks and for shorts. Those are great. We love those. Also, guys, if you guys stream, the more people we can have stream the server, the better, because the more our name gets out there, the more people find out about us, the more people put in apps, the more players we get. The fewer streamers we have, if none of us are streaming and none of us are sharing things outside of here, we silo ourselves and we're not going to attract new people. So I'm always happy to see people streaming. If you guys need help setting up a stream or getting yourself started, there are tons of us here in Discord who've been doing it for way too long and who know how to settle that up and are happy to help you. We would love to get you guys, plugged in and set up with streaming so that you guys can be a part of that community, but also help grow the server more. If you guys ever have questions on that, please don't hesitate to ask. But yeah, yes, Melon, yes, your request, I appreciate very much you being patient. It's going on our list of things to do. It just has to unfortunately it's behind other things, but yes, we appreciate those requests. So, all right, cool. Well, if there's nothing else, we will go ahead and wrap this up. I'm going to hit stop the recording.